Yeah.
Authority. Now we're official. I'd like to start with our land acknowledgement. We would like to acknowledge that the land on which we work, live, work, and learn, commune, the original homelands of the indigenous people of West Sacramento, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We acknowledge and we thank the original inhabitants who have occupied, maintained, and secured this place and who still exist on this land. We respect and celebrate the many diverse indigenous people still connected to the land on which we gather. Thank you. So next is our Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to put on the spot my friend Eric Johnson, who's here tonight from SACOG, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could join us. When you're ready. See the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we did not have closed session this evening. And let me just, for the record, let everybody know that the mayor's out. She'll be back in a few minutes. And so I'll be leading the meeting through the consent agenda. Let's see. First item on the agenda, General Administration Function Part 1, presentations by the public on matters not on the agenda within the jurisdiction of the council. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers this evening?
Yes, ma'am. Guy Stevenson.
Guy.
I want to do a shout out. Oh, first, good evening to you ladies. I'll do a shout out to the Capitol Project. I think they're doing a great job of beautifying the West Capitol with flowers and trees and stuff, because I think that's an attractive thing if somebody wants to visit West Sac, not see weeds and stuff. So they're doing a good job, and so is Public Works. And I'm glad, and the parks too, they're doing it all, and I appreciate that. Because it's very attractive to go into a city and you can see that the shrubbery is not weeds and it's actual plants and they're blooming, so they look good. Now I'm gonna flip the conversation, and I'm probably gonna piss some people off. But the issue with these massage parlors, believe me, I would say 80% of the massage parlors in West Sac and also in Sacramento are illegal. And why do I say that? Because there's a lot of prostitutes.
Stevenson, so this item is actually on the agenda tonight.
Yes.
Can we hold that comment for when that item comes up? This is for items that aren't on the agenda.
Okay.
Is that okay
Can I
with you?
speak on that other?
Yeah, you can fill out another comment card, and let's see, it is item number, can somebody help me out real quick? 14 on the agenda tonight.
Okay.
So yeah, and you can get another 2 minutes to speak, another 3 minutes to speak on that. Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Madam Clerk?
Kathy Bailey.
Ms. Bailey.
Thank you for having us or allowing us to speak to you all. I appreciate that, and so does our members. I'm here tonight to represent Riva on the River, a 252-unit condo community in West Sacramento off of Village Parkway. I am imploring all of you to make more money to give to the police so they can actually do their jobs. I want to refer back to a comment that I made last year about an intentional flooding of 5 units that the police did not investigate. As I was told, we do not have the manpower to do property crimes. We can only do people crimes. There were numerous members of our community that knew what happened and knew pretty much guaranteed or would say that the person that did this crime was the same person, even though they didn't talk to each other. This cost us over $400,000 worth of damage. And again, I was immediately there. I was called from my work to go there. I took pictures. There was no evidence of a burglary anywhere, no marks on the doors or the garage or the balcony, nothing. So this was an intentional by somebody was in the home and flooded 5 units. To give you an update, the one woman had to be out of her home living in a hotel for over 10 months while the insurance companies bickered back and forth because the person who caused this was not insured. And so we had to take the brunt of that as the HOA members. In addition, our insurance just came back, as that is a humongous claim in this insurance environment. They did renew us, but they've raised our dues, which some of our members here today do not know about, but they raised our dues 20%. In addition, I am going to talk about the Little Police here and drug unit. We have a drug unit in our community. There's more than 10 people that have called in the police department for this drug unit. They don't come out. I'm having to fight the people that live in the unit. I have basically told them to leave many, many times. The people that come up to their garage all the time, I insist that they leave. I'm fighting what I should not have to fight. Everybody in that area knows it's a drug unit, and we're just asking for the police to step up, which means that you have to give the power to the police to actually do some detective work and actually fight crime. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
Matt Weaver.
Good evening, Council. I missed my perfect attendance record. I missed a meeting a couple of weeks ago. I did send a letter in. It was rejected from the city clerk's email office. I'll have to resubmit it to make sure everybody knows. First, I want to take a second to honor the troops who fight for us to have this freedom and to be here tonight. We got people fighting for us to do this across the world. And even if we don't agree with them, a lot of times, right, we have to remember that's the only reason we get to stand here and disagree. With that, I've been doing my own deeds here, trying to save the city catastrophic failure around what was a strategic initiative from the council. I've observed, essentially, we have a lame duck council in West Sacramento. Unless one of these gentlemen to my right nod their head in your direction, you can't do anything. And unless 3 of you agree, you can't even get an item on an agenda. So I'm here to speak publicly, not because I believe that you could possibly move the needle, but because I warned you that litigation was imminent around your retail cannabis. I'm going to join my own litigation because you won't give me the respect and representation that I've made myself available for. First of all, inverse condemnation. It's a part of the California Constitution. It's happened here in West Sacramento on 15th Street in your district. Regulatory taking. It's happened here. That's under the 5th Amendment, Penn Central Transportation versus the City of New York. There's case law here. Violation of equal protection. When you create a class of 1, you violate my civil rights. I don't care what blue, what red, what color, what district. We need to be mad as hell in this trust recession where we shouldn't trust government. We should not trust government. The Epstein list is enough proof to know we shouldn't trust government. I am here not to trust government, but to hold my government accountable for my rights. The violation of procedural due process, making maps behind closed doors that create this class of 1. I could go on. You will be responsible for my attorney fees once I turn it over to an attorney. I've given and pleaded my case to so many of you, there would be no reason for the city to be picking up attorney fees for somebody as involved and as patiently speaking the truth in front of all of you. And again, I watch a lame duck council and a city that's losing trust. We gave you your 1%. Thank goodness, I've had the fire department out twice in the last couple of weeks. We give you our trust. It's showing up in some good places, as this gentleman said, showing up in my block with things that keep people from getting hit by cars. I don't want to be so critical that I ignore the good, but I'm not here to be ignored, and I'm not here to have my civil rights violated by this city management.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
We have no additional requests to speak on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So moving on to presentations, we have a proclamation recognizing March 2026 as American Red Cross Month. And I believe we have some members of the American Red Cross here tonight. Can you please come up to the podium? Thank you for being here. Can you all introduce yourselves?
Yeah, I'm Tracy. I'm a volunteer nurse with the Red Cross.
Hello, my name is Constanza. I'm also a volunteer of the Red Cross.
Hello, my name is Marilyn. I am volunteer at Red Cross.
Hi, my name is Debbie. I'm a volunteer with the Red Cross as well.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here tonight. So I have a proclamation that I'll read, and then I will give you the opportunity to speak, and then we'll allow my colleagues to share comments, and then we'll take a picture. Thank you. Proclamation of the City Council, City of West Sacramento, designating March 2026 as American Red Cross Month. Okay, hold on. This is why I'm having problems tonight. Glasses. Here we go. Whereas, in March, we celebrate American Red Cross Month by honoring our neighbors who make its humanitarian mission possible in West Sacramento. And whereas their acts of kindness change lives, bringing relief, comfort, and hope when help cannot wait, and the compassionate spirit runs deep in our community as it has for 145 years. And whereas those who serve with the California Gold Country region light the way during emergencies, delivering shelter, food, and comfort after disasters, providing a safe, life-saving blood supply for patients facing conditions like cancer treatments, childbirth complications, and traumatic brain injuries, assisting military members, veterans, and their families with 24/7 global support, and empowering individuals with skills like first aid and CPR that saves lives. And whereas the Red Cross Gold Country Region team responded to 630 home fires, hosted 270 blood drives, provided services to 490 military families, and trained more than 35,780 people in first aid, CPR, and AED, water safety, babysitting, and other life-saving skills in 2025. And whereas the collective efforts are a powerful reminder that the strength of our community lies in our shared commitment to one another. And whereas disaster preparedness remains a priority in West Sacramento, and the American Red Cross supports this effort through community education and free smoke alarm installation events that help residents prepare for and prevent emergencies. And whereas, let us celebrate our local heroes and resolve to continue lifting each other up so no one faces an emergency alone as we mark Red Cross Month. Now, therefore be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of West Sacramento hereby designates March 2026 as Red Cross Month and encourages all residents of West Sacramento to reach out and support its humanitarian effort. Proclaim this 18th day of March 2026.
Thank you. So thank you for this honor. On behalf of the Red Cross, we're deeply grateful for this proclamation and the recognition of the work we do. The Red Cross mission is simple and powerful: to prevent and alleviate human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. This work is only possible because of the compassion and commitment of all of our community. We share this recognition with every volunteer, donor, and partner who makes it real, and thank you for standing with us and helping bring hope to where it's needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. And then my colleagues, do you have any comments?
Really quick, thank you so much to the American Red Cross, and especially to the volunteers. Volunteers are what make organizations. Thank you.
I echo that. I really appreciate what you all do for our community and for our region, and we are lucky to have you guys stepping up.
Thank you.
Yeah, when fires are in West Sacramento, it's one of the first things we check in on how are we taking the victims. And American Red Cross has always been there in West Sacramento for the folks surviving fire. And so thank you for your support and just commitment to our community. I had once had the opportunity to do the phone bank during one of the telethons. And I think I was 5 a.m. in the morning on phones, and people were calling in, making donations, and people really appreciate American Red Cross's work. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you.
Let's take a picture.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. No. 1, 2. Thank you.
So moving on to the consent agenda, we have items 3 through 11. Does anyone would like to pull one of the items for questions?
No.
Nothing? Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
We need public comment first.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
I got you.
Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment?
We have no request to speak on any of the items on the consent agenda.
Wonderful.
Early seconds.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Alcala and a second by Councilmember Dante Early. What is everybody's name?
Councilmember Alcala?
The whole government name.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. And before we move on to, we have no items on our regular agenda, but before we move on to the public hearing, I believe we're going to take a pause. Take a brief
I think our
recess.
recommendation would be, before we get to the public hearing items, we take a recess to allow the full council to reconvene. So that would be our staff recommendation.
So let's do that.
What
Sorry,
are the options?
You can either keep going, or you can take a recess just to allow the mayor to arrive and continue with the public hearings.
Are we able to take it in a different order?
You could. You could also go out of order as well. So
Could we do that? I just, because you have because the alternative is we wait.
yeah, so you wouldn't even need to take a motion. It would be up to the presiding officer to take
Can I
the
make that
items in
motion,
the order.
sir? I don't want to be a lame duck, but
I think what Aaron is saying is we don't really need a motion, but if the presiding officer, the vice chair, is Mayor Pro Tem, wants to change the order, then she can do that.
Yeah, if my colleagues are comfortable with that, we can move on to item 13.
I would love that.
Yeah, item 13 is a fairly simple one. We will have presentation of.
Okay, so let's take item 13, community development, public hearing and consideration of the first reading of the ordinance 26-1, amending Title 8, Title 17, and Title 18 of the Municipal Code. And then, let me pull up what we got going on. Daniel, hello.
Hello.
We ready to rock and roll?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and all the members of the City Council. My name is Daniel Berruman, Senior Planner for the city. Tonight's item is a coordinated set of omnibus amendments to Titles 8, 17, and 18 of the Municipal Code. The Muni Code often requires periodic updates due to changes in state law, evolving best practices, and process improvements. Importantly, these amendments are not site-specific, do not change zoning, and do not modify the general plan. Rather, they focus on legal compliance, procedural clarity, and administrative efficiency. There are a total of 14 proposed amendments, one amendment in Title 8, Health and Safety, 12 amendments in Title 17, Zoning Code, and one amendment in Title 18, Floodplain Management. Per the California Environmental Quality Act, the amendments are exempt under CEQA guidelines 15305 and 15061B3, as they are administrative and clarifying in nature, and can be determined that these amendments will not have a significant impact on the environment. In summary, these omnibus code amendments represent routine but essential maintenance to the municipal code. With that, staff respectfully recommends that the City Council find that this project is exempt from CEQA and consider adoption of Ordinance 26-1, amending noted sections in Titles 8, Title 17, and Titles 18 of the Municipal Code. This concludes staff's presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from my colleagues? Thank you. And I don't have the script in front of me for public hearings, but I believe I'm going to open the public hearing, ask for comment, and then we'll close the public hearing. Okay, I would like to officially open the public hearing.
We have no request to speak on item 13.
Great.
I'm sorry.
13.
Yeah, item 13.
Great. And so no request to speak, so now I'm closing the public hearing.
Early moves.
And then are we up for motion?
Yes.
I have a motion from Councilmember Early and a second from Councilmember Alcala. Would you take a roll? Let's just take the roll call vote for the three of us.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye. So we're on 13. We just closed the public hearing.
Oh, okay.
You want to vote on that?
Yes, Madam Clerk?
The mayor wants to vote on this item.
We'll take a revote on item 13. I need a motion and a second.
Early moves.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Early and a second from Councilmember Alcala.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye.
Great, and that closes item 13. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so real quick, we took out of the order, so we are now.
All right, we are now on item under 12. On item 12 under finance, the public hearing and consideration of resolutions 26-23 and 26-24, making certain findings about written objections and implementing water and sewer rates for the next 5 years. And our finance director, Roberta Raper, will begin. So first off, we will begin with the presentation, which will include an overview of the proposed rates as well as summary of the written objections that have been received and staff responses. So we'll begin with the staff presentation. Thank you.
All right. And I have to figure this out each time, but hey, I'm getting better. All right, so we are here tonight, thank you for the introduction, to provide an update to council on the Proposition 218 process undertaken for the update of water and sewer rates as directed by council at the December 3rd meeting. So as the mayor mentioned, we'll start with a brief overview of the utilities and the information that was presented at the December 3rd workshop as a refresher for council and to provide some context for the members of the public in attendance tonight. After the presentation, the council may ask questions. We'll ask the mayor to open the public hearing. After public comment on the item has concluded, council can then discuss the item and consider the first resolution, Resolution 26-23, making certain findings related to the requirements of AB 2257 about the written objections process. Council will then close the public hearing, I hope, and then the mayor will call a recess so that the clerk can tabulate the number of protests that we've received, and then we'll come back and announce the total and then move forward with potentially consideration of Resolution 26-24, adopting the rates. But first, we'll provide a little bit of background. The city owns 3 utilities, water, sewer, and refuse. This item is focused on water and sewer only, as there's a RFP process underway for waste hauler services. The water and sewer funds are enterprise funds, which means they operate as business-like activities. They must generate sufficient revenues to cover the cost, the expenses of the utility, which includes the operations and maintenance, repair and replacement of the utility infrastructure, including any debt payments. Revenues are generated through rates charged to customers who use the service and are calculated through a cost of service study, or you sometimes hear it called a rate study. Utility revenues may not fund anything other than the utility service for which they are collected. So water rates fund water service, sewer rates fund sewer service. They are not allowed to fund anything else. The last rate studies were completed in 2011 and 2017. So each time included some of the lowest rates in the region, and the focus was on cost-cutting measures and keeping rates low for customers during and after the Great Recession. So the last rate adjustment was implemented in July 1st, 2021. We typically adopt rates 5 years at a time. So rates have not been adjusted in the last 5 years. The water and sewer master plans were completed in January. Those identify necessary infrastructure investment into the utilities. Since then, we've worked with our consultant, HF&H, to develop cost of service studies for each utility, which we presented to you with several options in December. At that time, council directed staff to move forward with the Proposition 218 process using the scenario number 4, which was the scenario recommended by the Environment and Utilities Commission. Since that time, we've mailed Proposition 218 notices to all property owners and customers of record. That was done on January 2nd, 2026. The number is not here, but something like 17,980. We held open houses at the Boathouse and Club West on the evening of February 3rd and the morning of February 7th. That was a Tuesday and a Saturday. And then we had deadlines for submitting written objections was February 19th at 4 p.m. Written protests may be submitted up to the end of the hearing tonight. And for convenience, we do have written protest forms over there in a little box to put them in. So you're welcome to help yourselves to that. Oh, I think I missed some of that. There we are, reminder, written protests. So tonight, let's see. Now we're getting into the meat. This chart shows a comparison of our current rates to surrounding agencies. I don't know if I have a red dot that I could put up there, but the sort of bluish color, the third one in, is the City of West Sacramento current rates compared to our regional neighbors. And as you can see, West Sacramento currently has some of the lowest rates in the region. Since we went over this in detail last time, so I don't plan to go into it in great detail, but one of the big drivers, this chart shows, I'll look at some numbers, increases to costs that we're seeing since 2021. And one of the big drivers of the rate increase proposed today is the increase in costs to do the same thing today that we were doing, 5 or even 10 years ago. Add to that a shift to a more preventative maintenance and replacement program for the utilities, and total cost for implementing required projects has increased significantly since the last update in 2017. And as we discussed in more detail in December, even completely ignoring the infrastructure investment required to maintain reliable utility service to ratepayers, using the economic indicators that you see here just for CPI and labor increases, a 20% increase in rates would be needed immediately to simply keep pace with the rising cost of operating the water and sewer utilities. So with that, I am going to hand this over to I'm going to hand this over to our Public Works Director, Rebecca, to give us some background.
All right, thank you, Roberta. Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. So I'm going to do an abbreviated presentation of the one that I gave back in December, just for our audience today, as they may have not heard it before. But the George Kristoff Water Treatment Plant provides all of the drinking water, irrigation, and fire suppression water for the city, and we produce about 11 million gallons a day of drinking water for the community. The box that you see next to me represents 1 unit of water, and so about 748 gallons of water, if you filled that cube up all the way to the top, would fit in that box. And an average single-family home in the city uses around 12 units of water per month. So 12 of these cubes is about an average family's usage. And right now we charge $2.43 for that cube of water next to me. We also have 8 reservoirs, 2 clear wells, and 1 booster station that moves water from the north side of town to the south side. We have 212 miles of water mains, which is roughly the distance from here to Fresno. We also have 97 miles of service lines, which are the lines that go from the main to your home or business. And then you can see there how many meters and hydrants and valves that we have as well. So most people don't think about the water and sewer lines because they're not seen typically, unless something breaks, and then you do see them. But there's a whole network of infrastructure literally under our feet that requires maintenance and replacement. And at any time it can fail, and when it does definitely become visible quickly. A major sewer break could result in sewage running down a major street. A large water main break could result in a giant sinkhole that endangers people and property. Our infrastructure here in the city is aging, and it's at or beyond its useful life. Regulatory requirements are also becoming stricter, and water meters also require replacement to maintain accurate readings. And so if the council and community didn't know, when water meters start to fail, they actually fail by under-registering, which then results in less revenue for the city, and it's in the favor of the customer. When the city incorporated in 1987, about 35% of the infrastructure was inherited from Yolo County, and so that was a lot of older infrastructure. We have the county records dating back to the 40s, but that means we have water infrastructure that's now 80+ years old, and the average life of a water main is around 70 years. We currently have a water supply contract that allows us to divert and purchase water from the Sacramento River, but that can be affected and curtailed in dry years, so we're also looking at alternative water supplies to improve reliability. On the sewer side, we have 214 miles of pipelines, 9 pump stations, and 5 lift stations. Our sewer system relies on gravity, so when it can't go any lower, we have lift stations that pump it up so it can continue to a pump station, which then sends it under pressure to the county's pipe. Wastewater is treated then by the Sacramento Area Sewer District, and those SAC area sewer rates are separately passed on to our residents. And so just like our water system, our sewer infrastructure is also aging. Repair and replacement costs have risen dramatically over the last 5 to 10 years, and we, as the city, we are responsible for these systems and their associated failures. Because of aging infrastructure, we're seeing more sewer backups, more pipe failures and sinkholes, and we're also seeing increased groundwater infiltration, which raises our pumping costs because we're no longer just pumping sewage, but also groundwater with it. We're also approaching our system capacity, and our pumps are struggling to keep up. So we do have some shovel-ready projects that we just really need money to continue moving these projects along. But the first one is our high-service manifold vault and effluent meter, and that is a regulatory requirement for that effluent meter. And we also need to upgrade the pipes that send the treated water into the system and the city and build a vault so that staff can safely access this critical asset. And again, the meter is a state requirement. It measures how much treated water is entering our system, and this project requires $7.2 million. Another nearly shovel-ready project is the South Sewer Lift Station near the State Streets neighborhood on Park and Stone. The design is nearly complete, but construction funding is not available. The current station is too small to handle peak flows and has no backup system. So if a pump fails, it could result in a sewer backup. The project also includes safety improvements for staff and has a cost of $6 million. In the sewer and water master plans, the recommended 5-year water CIP is $89.5 million, which is approximately $18 million per year. The recommended 5-year sewer CIP is $54.1 million, which is about $11 million a year. Water meters have a lifespan of about 20 years, and some of ours are over 25 years old, and so we're looking at replacement of meters as well. And so you see there a list of some of our upcoming infrastructure projects, because again, we are responsible for ensuring safe, reliable water and sewer systems. So we definitely need a higher investment now, but our goal is to get to a place where we're making that investment, and that way we can get on a good preventative maintenance and replacement schedule to keep our rate increases more stable moving forward. And so now I will turn it over to Rick Simonson with the city's rate consultant, HF&H.
Good evening, Mayor Guerrero, council members. Again, I'm Rick Simonson, Senior Vice President with HF&H Consultants. We do rate consulting for water, sewer, and solid waste throughout the state of California. We were selected through a competitive bid to assist the city in the water and sewer utility rate studies that we're here tonight to discuss. I have a high-level overview of what we have provided in a more detailed report that was attached in the agenda that provides a lot more detail of the methodology that it takes to calculate these rates that are proposed for you tonight. I can make sure I can use this properly. There we go. So as mentioned earlier, with your utilities, they are operated as self-supporting enterprise funds. So as Roberta mentioned, We generate revenues from user rates and charges that we're here to establish tonight, and those rates and charges can only be used within the respective utilities and cannot be used elsewhere to fund other city services. And per Proposition 218 that was passed in California to protect ratepayers, rates must be based on the cost of service to provide that service to each customer class. And that helps us compute what the necessary rates are specific to each customer class based on the burden in which they place on the systems and their demand patterns. What are the steps of a cost of service analysis? First, we do have to identify those costs, both your O&M costs as well as those capital projects that must be completed in the next 5 years. We do track these costs so we can allocate the specific function based on the function of the costs to each individual customer class, so we can make sure that each customer class is just paying their fair share, nothing more, nothing less. And lastly, I'll be providing some customer impact information and how you compare to other jurisdictions. I will be speaking on both utilities tonight. I'll start with the sewer, run through the sewer, and then follow up with the water, and we'll open it up for questions. First, your current city monthly rates are listed here for some context, those that may not look intently at their bills. Currently, single family and multifamily are charged on a per fixed month amount. And respectively, that's $10.88 per month for single-family residences and $8.16 for multifamily dwellings on a per dwelling unit basis. And the reason for that is we can demonstrate through water analysis that multifamily dwelling units discharge less water into the wastewater system, therefore they charge slightly less. Commercial, on the other hand, is charged in two components. They're charged first for a flat $5.40, and then we look at the water use of that commercial customer, and then they're charged on the use of that water that's being discharged into the sewer. So just for example, if a commercial customer uses 10 units of water, of which you see here, 10 of these 748 gallons, they'll be charged the $5.40 plus $31.60 for that water, for a total bill of $37. So I just want to be clear, those are not fixed both for commercial. And I also want to be clear on what we're discussing tonight was put into the Prop 218 notice this is just covering the city's cost for maintaining the collection system, where the treatment, again, as mentioned earlier, is covered by Sacramento Area Sewer District, and they set their own rates and they're passed through to your customers. So we're here just looking at the collection-related costs. So as Roberta mentioned, rates have not increased since 2021, thus revenues need to increase to cover current costs. And as you'll see in a few slides, current rates do not cover the current or projected costs over the next 5-year period, specifically around necessary capital improvement projects that were highlighted in the master plan that was conducted early last year. So to give you an idea of where what we call revenue requirement, the expenses that need to be covered and how they compare to your current revenue at current rates, we've provided this stacked bar chart. These stacked bars represent, in the green, the bottom portion, your operations and maintenance. This is the day-to-day staffing and maintenance costs, as well as there is a small bond outstanding for sewer, and there's a small amount of debt service that still needs to be paid over the intervening years. And then lastly, as you see, the largest component of the revenue requirement are these capital projects. And what we have labeled here is a full ask scenario. As mentioned earlier, we did have some scenarios presented earlier. But based on the master plan and the highest priority projects, staff was able to look at those and say, well, what can we get accomplished over the next 5 years? So these are those projects that have been identified at the highest level of what should be completed over the next 5 years. The yellow line or orange line you see there, that is tracking the current revenues at current rates. And you'll see there is a bit of an upslope because there is continued growth here in the city. So even without raising the rates, we do see an incline in that revenue. But again, looking at the stacked bars, the current revenue at current rates is not sufficient over any of the next 5 years to cover projected expenses. So we know some sort of rate increase is necessary. But it doesn't all have to be borne by rates. There's different ways of bridging that shortfall. First, rate increases. We are recommending some increase to those rates. But we also know the city has in reserves some monies set aside for some of these capital projects. So we will be using some reserves and contemplating debt issuance for larger capital projects that are significant and will benefit long term. So debt financing those makes sense to spread those costs over time, so that current ratepayers are not the only ones contributing to that infrastructure that will benefit future ratepayers. So what we're recommending tonight is a combination of all three of these factors. So what does that mean? I've touched on, we came to the EU in November and the full council in December, highlighting some different capital spending scenarios, because that is the most highest component of your revenue requirement. So we looked at 4 different scenarios. First, I showed with a stacked bar chart the full ask of $8.8 million per year of capital funding. And as a note, the master plan had identified 11, but staff was able to look at those and see what could be accomplished over the next 5 years, and that's what we titled the full ask. But we know that was a significant impact to rates. So we did look at a number of different scenarios, both what we call a mid-level and a low level. So the least amount of funding for capital projects that should be funded during the next 5 years at $5.5 million for the low, and then a mid in between that $8.8 million and $5.5. When we brought this to the EU, they looked at the mid scenario and did like what they saw, but wanted to add a few more projects. So that was added to $8.4 million, still less than the full ask. So what we're proposing and what the rates are based on is spending $8.4 million on average per year over the next 5 years, but some of that being debt funded. And that's about $26 million of that full $42 million being debt funded, which spreads those costs over a 30-year period. So what does that mean when we're looking at what type of revenue increases we need? You'll see that towards the bottom of the slide. There are significant increases ranging from 35% this coming April up to down to 8% in 29-30. How do we arrive at that? This chart really helps us identify what those necessary revenue increases should be. So I'll orient you a little on how to read this slide. So first we plot what we call a minimum target for your reserve balance and a total target reserve balance. That's indicated by the red line for the minimum and the blue for the target. So as we're analyzing the costs and the revenue increases, we'd like to see your fund balance hit that target, but never drop below that minimum. That minimum is there for your about 3 months of cash on hand for your day-to-day operations without regard to any capital projects. We layer on top to get to the blue line another 3 months of O&M expense available for those capital projects as well. So we're aiming to be at that target over the 5-year period. We do realize there were reserves built up over the past. So the starting point was about $8 million in reserves. Instead of just using rates to fund those shortfalls, we are utilizing reserves you see in years 25, 26, 26, 27, and 27, 8, and 28. We're using reserves to help soften some of those increases, which would have been much higher. So you are utilizing those reserves that the city does currently have. This is just a slide to show you with that 42 million or 8.8 million, 8.6 million per year that we're looking at funding for capital, just to give you an idea of what those planned projects are for lift stations and rehabilitation projects, as well as general maintenance on your sewer mains as well. And the highlighting was just differentiating from some of the other scenarios where projects were shifted in order to save costs. So what does that all mean? This is a snapshot of the table that was included in the Proposition 218 notice, Table 4, which is laying out the current, as I mentioned earlier, at $10.88 for single family, and then the increases over the next 5-year period. And these would be the maximum rates. If you adopt this schedule, they'd be the maximum rates you could charge over the next 5 years. Each year you can revisit these and can do something less, just not something more. So what does that mean to the average single-family water user, the bulk of your customers? Currently, the sewer bill, which does include a component for the treatment, so we can compare to other jurisdictions that have both collection and treatment in their rates, $54.88. Again, currently it's $10.88 from the city. And that would increase to $63.85 under this proposal come April 1st. Still in the lower rankings of what you see of your neighboring agencies. So with that, I'll just pause quickly. If you'd like me to just keep soldiering on, I'm happy to. So you'll see similar slides for water. I'll start with your current rates. So for water, there is a fixed service charge for all customers based on their meter size, which represents the capacity that each type of customer needs in the system to accommodate their water needs. And those rates do increase as the meter size increases because they demand more water and there's more capacity that they need to pay for in the system. 69% of your residents are the 3/4 and 5/8 inch, so they're charged $24.61 per month fixed before turning on the faucet. And it increases as the size of the meter increases. There's that second component that Rebecca mentioned for this 1 unit of water is currently $2.43, so based on water use. Similar key issues that are affecting the water rates. Rates have not increased since 2021. We're not keeping up with the costs of service being provided, as well as the funding needed for major rehabilitation projects, as well as upgrading those water meters. Similarly, we have a stacked bar chart here showing, again, the operations and maintenance. There is some outstanding debt service for the water, so that will continue to be paid. And again, it's those capital projects that are really driving the need for the increases. In this current fiscal year, 25-26, you'll notice revenue at current rates, which is about 17 million, is covering your O&M and debt service, but very little is left over for those capital projects. And over the next 4 years, can't even cover the debt service. So again, we know some sort of revenue increase is necessary. And we had a similar strategy here, a combination of rates, reserves, and debt issuance. In a similar fashion, looking at those capital projects, we knew the full CIP from the master plan of 18.6 million would be a bit onerous. So again, we looked at different scenarios landing on, again, the EU recommendation to fund 15.3 million per year. And this scenario, again, includes debt financing some of those projects, so those costs are spread over a 30-year period. And similarly, looking at the fund balance graph, again, there are some reserves available to help mitigate some of these increases. A 20% increase in revenue for 25-26, down to 5% by the time we get to 29-30, again, flattening that solid green line there of your projected fund balance with these recommended increases, hitting that target by the 5th year. And I'll mention, and I did not on the sewer, the dotted green line, that's there for reference. If nothing is done over the next 5-year period, you will deplete those reserves that you do have before the end of fiscal year 27-28. So a bit more extensive list, much more projects here for the water. They range from small $500,000 projects up to more ambitious repair projects overall of about $20 million. High service manifold repair and replacement. Again, this is just for reference on where that $76.5 million is going over the next 5 years. Again, pulling from the Proposition 218 notice of what we're recommending tonight for maximum rates over the next 5-year period are shown in this table. Just as reference, the current up to a 3/4 inch, so most of your residents currently have that fixed charge of $24.61, and that'll be increasing to $48.29 by January 2030. The $2.43 water use charge will increase from $2.43 to $3.31 by January 1, 2030. And there are some flat rates for residential 1, 2, or 3 dwelling units that do not have functioning meters at the moment, so it's just a handful. So these rates are developed based on average water use because if the meter is not operable, it cannot track the actual. So there's just a handful of customers that need this from time to time. So that's why you see them a bit higher, because it is the full bill, not a fixed plus actual usage. The bill comparison for single family come this April 1st based on our recommendation. Based on average water use of about 1,100 cubic feet of water with a 5/8 inch meter, which again is a majority of your residential customers, would increase from $51.34 to $62.99. And when we combine the two to compare with the previous slide of your current rates of a total of $106.22, which does include the Sac area sewer district charge as well. As Roberta showed, the $106.22 for current as compared to others, that will increase to $126.84 per month. Again, it will differ from month to month as your water usage is either below average or above average, and it will be different for every customer based on their actual water needs. So with that, I'll conclude my portion and ask Roberta to cover the low-income rate assistance program.
All right. So, good time to talk about our low-income rate assistance program. As you were seeing, average water usage, a total bill increase of approximately about $20 per month. So we do have a program currently that aligns with the PG&E Care and the Sac Sewer Lifeline programs. It is funded by a transfer from the Measure K fund. Currently, our budget is about $15,000 annually for that. The credit amount is $5 monthly. $3 of that goes towards water and sewer, and $2 of that goes towards the refuse bill. Utilization has been declining over the past few years. We currently have about 192 customers, residential customers, and the total annual cost is just under about $7,000 at our current rate. But we are proposing not only some focused outreach, but also change to the credit amount and the program overall. So first, we're We're looking at the low-income rate assistance tier. That is our existing program. We're looking to increase the monthly credit from $3 a month for water and sewer to $18 a month for water and sewer. If you add that to the $2 for refuse, that's a total of $20 a month in credits. We would maintain the existing eligibility requirements. It aligns, like I said, with the PG&E Care Program and the SAC Sewer Lifeline Program, which are set up at about 200% of the federal poverty level for income limits. We will look at we have an application that looks at either the income, or if you're enrolled in PG&E Care or SAC Sewers Lifeline Program, will and show us proof, will automatically put you in our LIRA program. Existing participants would not need to reapply to get the higher credit. We would, if it's approved by council, we would apply that higher credit automatically, but we would require recertification of eligibility periodically. I've looked, and it looks like industry standards around 2 years, but we'd want to align that with how PG&E and SAC Sewer are doing their program. Through our outreach, our open houses, we did have a few folks come and provide some feedback and input. And one piece of input was that there are seniors who have fixed income that are above the current low income limit used for our LIRA program, and so they don't get the benefit of that program. And so we would like to propose adding a second tier for that program, which is for fixed income seniors. There's an age requirement, 62 plus. We're looking at a higher fixed income level at or below 250% of the federal poverty level. And the monthly water and sewer credit would be $15. Of course, this is what's proposed. You're welcome to weigh in and provide other feedback or other ideas. So how would that be funded? So the cost of the program with the proposed credit increases at current participation levels would be about $42,000 annually. For the rest of the current year, there is sufficient Measure K appropriation to cover that increase. We're talking about like 3 months of the year. So it'll cover that increase plus a little over 40% increased enrollment. However, if the program participation were to reach the same level as the PG&E Care Program, I think in Yolo County, it's close to about 96%. I don't know if that was in Yolo County or if that was overall. But they have a very high utilization of that program for eligible ratepayers. If we were to reach the same level, our program could cost up to about $1 million annually. So we would propose revisiting the cost and the funding source annually as part of the budget process. But at no time would the rate assistance program, it's not funded by rates. It is compliant with Proposition 218, and we would ensure we continue that through the budget process annually. I believe I move on to something else. So I did want to just pause in case you have any questions or feedback on there. Okay. So moving on, I'm going to go into the Proposition 218 process. This is all the new stuff, kind of switching gears back to the rate adjustment process that we've been going through. So as I mentioned, December 3rd, we brought a workshop to council, and council selected the rate scenario number 4 to begin the Prop 218 process. The requirements of the Proposition 218, it requires us to mail a notice to all property owners and customers of record a minimum of 45 days prior to the public hearing to consider adoption of rates. The notice is required to be detailed, including the proposed rates, the basis for the rates, and providing details as to how to protest or object those rates. The city mailed Prop 218 notices to all property owners and customers of record on January 2nd, 2026. That was 72 days before the public hearing. The notice also included the dates and the locations of the 2 open houses that were held in February, as well as tonight's public hearing date. Excuse me. A little bit about the public outreach that we did. So the mailed notices also included the dedicated phone number and email address and the website that we created for all of the information related to this process and for dedicated assistance if people had questions or feedback on the proposed rates. Did not receive any emails or phone calls. We held an educational webinar about the city's utilities, the infrastructure, and the rate study and update process in October. That was recorded and was made available on the city's webpage as well. And as mentioned, we did the open houses. We did not have a lot of visitors, but we did have a few at each location. They asked great questions. They provided really helpful feedback, and the staff really enjoyed an opportunity to meet with the residents and provide information that isn't often easy to disseminate to 50,000 plus people. So back to the Prop 218 process. Proposition 218 requires a majority protest process, which means that if a majority of the affected property owners or customers of record protest, then the rates may not be adopted by council. For our city, that number is 8,891. Proposition 218 also requires that, well, it's not proposition, well, yes, Prop 218 requires that protests be written, signed, and include the address or parcel number, and that we verify that we haven't received more, that there's one per parcel, those types of things. Since the number of total protests received has not reached close to the 50% level, to be conservative, we've just counted every protest. We have not done a verification to ensure that we haven't received two for the same parcel or the same person. The protest tabulation must also be open to the public, so we will be tabulating protests here in the council chambers at recess. We have all of the protests received up until the meeting, plus the protests that are being received during the meeting. And then additionally, AB 2257 was effective in 2025 for cities that adopted a resolution and procedures, which we did back in November of 2025. AB 2257 allows property owners and customers of record to submit written objections to the rate process. Written responses from the city are required, and we have prepared those. But the objection process preserves the right to sue the city over adopted rates. So only parties who have submitted objections may challenge the rates, and only on the basis of the objections that they submitted as part of this process. The written objections were due to the city at 4 p.m. on February 19th. Turn my page and tell you where we went from there. Your report tonight includes all of the written objection letters that were received by the city. Those are compiled in Attachment 3. Attachment 2 includes the city's responses to the objections by main category. I also want to mention that we counted everything that we received as both a protest and an objection, unless it clearly just said I'm protesting rates and had no reasoning, in which case that was counted as a protest. So everything that we received through February 19th was counted as both, and then after February 19th, we've been counting everything received as a protest. All right, so most letters received were from the same or similar form letter template, so many objections had exactly the same or very similar language. And I mentioned that the detailed responses are in your packet and available for the public to view online. So I've summarized the main themes on the following slides, and I'll provide a very brief summary of the responses included. There's obviously a lot more detail in your packet. As of about 6:30 p.m. tonight, we had received 185 written protests and 89 written objections as of the February 19th deadline. As a reminder, written protests may be submitted to the end of the hearing tonight. So getting into some of the main themes. Lack of transparency in the rate setting process. We have provided the details of the public outreach already, but between the dedicated website, the phone number and email, the educational webinar, open houses, publishing in the local newspaper and on social media, we have attempted to reach people where they are, including with a colorful mailed notice to every home, every property. And we've certainly met the minimum transparency requirement under Proposition 218, and we believe we've also implemented several additional voluntary steps to ensure transparency throughout the process. Lack of alternative funding considered, including Measure O. So we mentioned earlier that utilities are business-like funds intended to charge rates to cover the cost of service, providing the service, maintenance, and replacement of the infrastructure. There are many competing interests for general tax revenue, including public safety, parks and recreation, and other government services for which no alternative funding sources exist. And the city has a policy, and it's industry best practice, not to use general tax revenues to support enterprise utilities, except in the case of the annual subsidy, which is provided by Measure K, and that was included as an eligible use of Measure K when the tax measure was adopted in 2002 by voters. The next objection, incomes are not increasing, so this causes a financial burden. While this is a legitimate and important concern, Proposition 218 requires that rates be based on the cost of providing service and allocated proportionally to each property or to each rate class. The cost of service study shows this, and to help with this, the proposed rate assistance program changes are intended to alleviate nearly all of at least the first year of impact for a customer with average water use. There are disproportionate rates for residential versus commercial customers. The rates are based on cost of service study, which is designed to ensure that each customer class pays no more than its proportional share of the cost of providing the service. So as a result, the updated cost allocation, as a result of the updated cost allocations and usage data, some commercial sewer rates decreased while residential rates increased. These changes reflect the results of actual usage and ensure compliance with Proposition 218 by aligning rates with the actual cost responsibility. The rates shift financial consequences of past development and capital planning decisions onto current ratepayers. The cost of service analysis identifies the cost required to operate, maintain, repair, and replace the city's existing water and sewer infrastructure systems. These are long-lived systems that require ongoing investment to maintain reliable service and meet regulatory requirements. The rates as proposed do just that. When we talk about sort of capital planning, development is intended to pay its fair share through connection fees and impact fees, and we're also taking a look at those. We have a contract to update those based on updated costs and project lists as well. All right, no demonstration that increases are unavoidable. That is not a requirement of Proposition 218. There's also no demonstration that increases are the result of properly paced infrastructure planning relative to recent growth. So as I mentioned, the proposed rates are not driven by growth. Rather, they're based on the cost of operating, maintaining, and replacing existing infrastructure to provide reliable service to current customers. Development pays its fair share to buy into the existing system and to fund the infrastructure required to serve its development through water and sewer connection fees. Projects required to serve new development are excluded from the CIP list to be funded with rates, as they are funded by connection fee revenues. And as I mentioned, we are in contract to update those fees as well. All right. We received a letter from a laundromat that is classified as a commercial customer, but their argument is they operate for residential customers and should be treated as residential. Sewer service is provided to the commercial parcel, the laundromat business, and wastewater discharged to the sewer system results from the aggregated operations of the facility. Laundromats typically generate concentrated wastewater flows associated with business operations rather than dispersed wastewater generation typical of individual residential households. It is correctly classified as a commercial parcel. If this was treated as residential, it would be nearly impossible to calculate the number of residences that use it and apply that flat residential fee times those number of residences. And it may end up actually higher than the bill as a commercial customer. And as a reminder, commercial customers are charged a small fixed fee and then a fee per unit of water. Let's see. The cost of service analysis relies on customer classes rather than parcel-specific causation. The cost of service studies do not allocate costs to each parcel. Instead, they allocate system costs to groups of customers with similar characteristics, referred to as customer classes. This is done because wastewater system costs are driven by the aggregate demand placed on the system by groups of customers with similar usage patterns. This approach allows the utility to allocate costs proportionally while maintaining a practical and administratively feasible rate structure. We're on the last one. Last two objections. The residential sewer customers are charged a flat rate, while commercial sewer customers pay both a fixed and volumetric charges, and that is true. The city does not meter wastewater discharge for residential or commercial properties. Instead, utilities commonly use metered water consumption as a reasonable proxy for commercial wastewater flow, because water that enters a building typically enters through the sewer system or exits through the sewer system. That is not necessarily true for residential dwellings, because water use often includes substantial outdoor irrigation that does not enter the sewer system. If sewer charges were tied to water use for residential parcels, customers could be charged for sewer fees for water used for landscaping, swimming pools, or other outdoor uses that never reach the sewer system. The last objection is the laundromat parcel may pay higher sewer charges than residential users who ultimately generate the wastewater, discharge from the facility. We've covered that response in the other questions. Overall, staff, the rate consultant, and our legal counsel all agree that none of the objections received demonstrate that the proposed rates fail to comply with the requirements of Proposition 218. They do not exceed the cost of providing service, and they allocate costs in a manner consistent with proportionality requirements of Proposition 218. So I will open it up for council questions, but I also have a slide that just sort of shows the next steps, which is hopefully questions, feedback, and then conduct the protest hearing and go through the steps to adopt the resolutions and tally the protests. So I will stop there and open it up for the council.
Thank you, Roberta. Open it up to council for any questions.
A few questions.
Yes.
I'll be fast, Roberta. You mentioned the laundromats, which is one of the questions I also had. And then what about car washes? Are those also included in the commercial?
Yes, that is a commercial business.
What about schools? Commercial?
Yes.
Okay, and let's see.
I mean, if it's not residential, it's
Right,
going to be
it's-
commercial.
okay,
So if
very
it's
good.
not a single-family residence, an apartment, a multifamily residence, it's going to be commercial.
I had people calls, and that's what you're getting from me right now, some questions people had. Someone mentioned the average rate that we're talking about with helping people. Someone told me my rate's never been anything lower than $45, and they are, I would say, senior, that fall within those guidelines and stuff. So are we using, I mean, is that the norm that we're using to calculate?
Is what the norm? I'm sorry.
I think we used, what was it, 15 or 20?
We're using,
Supposed to be.
when we're average water use is 11 units. So we use 11 units to calculate an average monthly bill, just because overall, that's sort of the average usage.
Okay.
Councilmember Alcala, just to clarify your question, are you referring to the ratepayer assistance program part of it?
That one, right.
Yeah, so Roberta, if you could articulate on that, I believe the target dollar figure for how we structured that program was based on what the initial increase would be for someone who meets the income.
Yeah, so if they meet the income thresholds, we are proposing to increase that credit by $15. So I don't know if this person that you're talking about already participates in the LIRA program. If they do, they would get an additional $15 credit on top of that with this program if adopted. If they do not, because they don't meet income requirements, but it is a fixed income senior, then they may qualify for the new tier, which would provide a $15 credit as well.
And one more quick question they asked, or you mentioned Measure K. I know that we use the funding from ratepayers. How are we able to use the Measure K?
Measure K, when it was adopted by voters, it had an advisory measure that went along with that. Included in that was a handful of eligible uses or proposed uses of the funds, and one of those were to provide subsidies for property assessments and utility rates. So we've been using Measure K for several years to provide these subsidies. Over the years, though, the participation in the program has gone down. The LIRA program originally was intended for flat rate customers as we were transitioning to metered rates. And so as we implemented meters, the people would drop off of that program. But we've expanded that program so that it's available for all customers. But I think that it is not well known, and the credit amount right now is so low that it doesn't make a lot of sense if people aren't really struggling. And so I think by both increasing the amount of the credit and by doing additional outreach to make sure people are aware of it, we would hopefully get the word out and increase participation in that program.
Okay, one final question on the water meters. How old can a water meter be before you have to replace it?
Didn't you say 20 years? Or is
Sorry,
that?
I must have missed that.
20 years? Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, not just that, but it also sounds like we have things over 20 years. I think it's more like best practice. I'm answering for you. Go for it.
That's okay. You're doing great. The average lifespan of a water meter is about 20 years. And so again, as it starts failing, it just starts under registering. So ultimately, it'll just get slower and slower and slower and slower, and then eventually it'll be registering like no water. So there's not a hard date of when you have to replace it, but if you can stay closer to that 25-year mark at the most, then you're going to keep it accurately registering water.
All right, good, thank you.
If I could, really quick, I just want to underscore a point that was made by Roberta that on the question you asked around why Measure K had eligibility for funding the subsidy program versus some of the other tax measures. So it all has to do with the advisory language that these measures have. Measure O, as you know, was very specific for core services, public safety, parks maintenance, road maintenance. That's where the money has to go. Measure K was by far the most diverse advisory language the city had ever done, and it's of the sales taxes that had been passed. And it was unique in that it had the language that Roberta specifically pointed out. So that's the one that we're pinpointing as the funding source that would offset the subsidy program. We can't take just any other tax measure fund and do the same thing with it. I think that's just an important point that you made there. Thanks.
Councilmember Early?
So I have just one follow-up question for that Councilmember Alcala asked, and then I'll probably have more questions after public comment on how the subsidy and increase was calculated. Just wanted to better understand. So we're going from, I think, is it $3 or $5?
It's $5 total, but $3 of that is dedicated to water and sewer. So the amount that we're talking about today is really the change from that $3 piece to the proposed 18. The $2 that is for refuse will remain, and that's going through its own sort of separate process and may come back with something else later, but that's not part of today.
How did you calculate that increase from 3 to 18?
Again, I was just sort of looking at, well, one piece was, I initially proposed it at $20. We were trying to basically, that gap in the first year. Our first year rate increase is the highest out of the 5 years. And so I wanted to make that not as much of an issue for people who are having trouble. So that's really, it was really arbitrary at this point, but I was trying to manage both the cost increase, something that I thought would be beneficial for folks. It is regionally, I don't have the packet with me, but I can pull it up. There was a schedule of our surrounding agencies and the low-income rate assistance programs that they have, and about $20 was towards the highest of those. And so we were looking at not only creating a program that would be regionally better than, good or better than most of our surrounding agencies, that it would minimize the impact of the rate increase for the first year, and then stay within sort of not get super expensive.
Understand. Did you try applying the same proportion of increase to the $3?
Yes, yeah. I have all kinds of data.
I'm curious. I'm curious if you just applied the same proportion, what would that be?
I don't think you would get to that level of participation with a $3 credit, but
okay,
I do
perfect.
have the
and so
information.
What I'm hearing, and you can give me the number because it sounds like you already have it, which is awesome, by the way. Thank you. Is that if we applied the proportion of increase that we're seeing to the $3, it would be less than the $15 increase. Am I getting that right?
Probably. Well, so let me pull up the thing really quick so I can make sure I'm giving you that. Okay, so at the current $3 credit, if we got to the 96%, it would be about $137,000 a year cost.
Not quite what I was asking. So just looking at the individual subsidy. So right now it's $3. How much are we planning on, like literally what is the percentage of increase? And then apply that same percentage of increase to the $3.
The percentage of increase for, so for the, that's hard to
rates.
calculate because there
What's
are
the
different
average?
pieces. So I could
there's
use
an
the
average, right?
average water
Yeah.
usage and look at that, yeah. So I don't have that, but I could figure that out. Do you want me to calculate this right now?
Maybe what you could do is, unless there's more comments, we could do public comment, and while we're listening to public comment, you can do the calculation. Because I bet it's
I'm
not
gonna think
extremely
if
difficult.
we're going from 106 to 126, right?
Well, I mean, and you'll have some time, because I know we'll have some public comment. That way you
Oh.
don't have to do it completely on the fly.
Yeah.
But I was thinking clearly, right, we actually talked about what the average rate increase is going to be. Apply that average increase, right, that rate, that same percentage to the $3, and I'm just curious which will be more.
$3.56.
Okay, that's not much.
No.
Okay. That's helpful.
Yeah.
So we are being even more generous with our 15, increasing it by $15.
I think just to try to keep it in simple terms, and like Roberta said, I don't think she's being fair when she said it was arbitrary, because it was well thought out in terms of what is the first year increase for the affected people going to be, and that was the kind of the target that was used.
That, and it was when we looked at the surrounding agencies,
Right.
that got us to.
It tracked with it.
Yeah.
So I think it was thoughtful in terms of what is that first year impact going to be for the people that are going to have the highest impact on their bottom line, and that was how it was structured. So I see where you're going.
I
but it would be-
appreciate that, and so let me just, what I would like to highlight, and which I appreciate in this, is two things. One, that not only was it intentional, but even potentially we, through this increase, are not only going to offset the rate increase, but also hopefully support even more than we were
Right.
before. And I think that's
Exactly.
really the point, is what I would share. Because if we were to just increase the subsidy by the same amount or the same percentage that we were increasing the rates, it sounds like it would only go up to $3.56.
Yeah.
Instead, we're proposing to increase this to $18, which is significant. And so I think that's more of how I would spin it.
Right, and I believe we expect a higher subscription rate
Yes.
because of that as well. So
Yeah.
That is a 600% increase in the credit.
There you go. Thank you for that percentage.
You're welcome.
Yeah, quick question. Thank you for the presentation. On the assistance program, you mentioned recertification every 2 years. How simple or complicated is that process?
So we don't like to complicate the process because that is a lot on our staff. And so we have not done recertifications in the past, and the credit amount is relatively low, so there's not a lot of risk there. With increasing the credit amount, right now with 192 people, I mean, they'd have to come in and say, hey, here's my new thing that I'm still on the PG&E program or whatever. And we'd say, okay, you get to stay on this. If not, if they don't have that, then they would fill out and then we've got Adriana who can probably give me more information on how that process works, but there's an application process. So if having to certify 200 people every couple of years is one impact, but if that number increased significantly, it might be a lot more. So I think we want to revisit that and kind of look at is 2 years or 3 years, what's the right sort of time frame for that, make sure that we're aligning with PG&E and SMED, and then probably do it, and Sac Sewer, but do it in a way where we're trying to do it at the same time each year, right? So that everybody kind of does it at once, we recertify and move on. But that piece, we'd have to figure out how we're
Okay, I'm sorry,
administratively do.
maybe I wasn't clear. I'm thinking of the person who has to recertify.
They only have to come in and say,
They
hey,
they
I'm still
physically
on
need
the
to come
PG&E
in?
care, or I'm still on the Lifeline program, and then we say, okay, you're still on our program too.
Okay.
Like, it's as easy as that. If they're not on one of those programs, then it's a one-page application where they provide their income, we certify that, and they're done. So if they're on one of the other programs, it's straightforward and very, very simple. If not, it's a simple application.
Okay. Is there a world where it could be, instead of coming in, done via email or online?
Oh, I'm sure it's done in a multitude of ways. Do they?
I'm seeing
Yeah.
some heads nodding.
Oh,
Okay.
phone calls? Oh, that's great to know.
Great.
No more questions? Then, Madam Clerk, you can open it up for public comment.
So we're opening the public hearing with Kathy Bailey.
My name is Kathy Bailey again. I am Riva on the Rivers Board President, and I'd like to speak to you a little bit about reserve studies. The state of California requires reserve studies by HOAs, and we have to follow them. It's a maintenance guide for the next 10, 20, 30 years. So I have to ask, why does this keep happening every 5 years where we are going to be, looked at for this kind of study and where we're getting our rates going to be increased? We are not only going to be affected by this personally, but as an HOA as well. Our members are already on my case about us raising our dues every year. We have to raise them because PG&E keeps raising their rates. We have to raise them because the insurance companies are raising our rates. We have to look at those things. And I think that as a city that has to abide by a budget, that we need to be looking at all areas of the budget and how are these maintenance things all of a sudden coming 5 years later with 79 million, 54 million, 33 million, when it should have been thought about all along. Maintenance, proper maintenance for any community, for any home, for any condo should be thought of all the time. Every homeowner has to plan for roofs. They have to think about how much am I going to put away so that when my roof becomes, needs to have repaired or replaced, how much do I have to have in savings to do this? So I have to ask, if this was just done 5 years ago or whatever, why are we now coming to the point where we have to raise it so high? And it might not be $3 or $18 or whatever it is. A lot of our members are on fixed incomes, and a lot of our members, like myself, who I work a 80-hour-a-week job, I'm living paycheck to paycheck based on all these things that we have to pay nowadays. So I'm just asking you, maybe you look at the budget that we work with all the time and figure out why did we not have maintenance on our sewer and water this entire time that you guys keep raising everything that we have. So thank you very much.
Excuse me, no clapping? Thank you. Thank you.
Alicia Gutierrez? Alicia Gutierrez? Maria Garcia?
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María García y estoy aquí a hablar acerca de lo que es el agua y el drenaje. Nuestra gente vive un cheque a cheque. Es imposible estar pagando más por electricidad, agua, drenaje. Es muy difícil vivir en una situación donde la ciudad de West Sacramento está aumentando cada vez más y más. Y está siendo imposible para nuestra comunidad seguir poder pagar todos los biles que están pasando dentro de la ciudad. Por favor, piénsenlo mucho. Nuestra comunidad está pasando momentos difíciles, especialmente nuestra gente de bajos ingresos. Estoy aquí para pedirles, por favor, esto no es justo para las familias. Gracias.
Jack Chandler?
Good evening, Mr. Chandler.
I'm a homeowner here in West Sac. Just have a two-part question regarding the tax revenues. It looks like fairly recently there was taxes raised, voted in, and I'm assuming there's a wealth of tax revenue these days. It looks like there's a healthy influx of population from the Bay Area and whatnot. All these people are paying into the tax revenue. So, two-part question. You have all of this tax revenue. Why is it that that revenue can completely cover the cost of the rate increase regarding the sewer and the water. I just would like more of an explanation.
We don't answer questions. We listen to your public comment, but we could, as council members, take up the question to staff, and I will ask for the staff to provide some clarification. There was some reference to it, but I'll ask for staff on your behalf. But you do have a minute and 28 seconds if you have additional comments.
Okay, the second part, the last hearing, I addressed the condition of the roads and was told that there was going to be something done about it with tax revenue. I don't see anything happening. I've lived here almost 20 years. The conditions of the roads is ludicrous. Southport Parkway is a mosaic of crevices and potholes. So I would just like to see something done about it with my money. All I got.
Thank you. Excuse me, no clapping? There's no clapping, please.
Matt Weaver.
"1987 was the year West Sacramento was founded. It sounds like this water issue was an issue back then. This infrastructure issue was an issue back then. We inherited this infrastructure by design. We asked for it. We said, we want to be a city. We want to take this responsibility on. We know it's under the earth. We take it with open arms. So none of this delayed maintenance makes any sense to me. Now, I know I'm just a lame duck commentator, because what's going to happen here is we don't have slides to torch you with or compel you with. And even if there was a placebo, hey, we're going to do this offset, but we're going to revisit it every few years, there's no guarantee that a grandmother who's lived in her mobile home until she's 80 isn't paid for this infrastructure many, many times over. And this is the issue with property tax. This is the incremental burden. This is not about just the utility. So what's the incremental burden of living where you live? California, Sacramento, West Sacramento. I went and bought a car in December on a whole different county. And I all know you live there in West Sacramento. We're getting that extra 1%. Great. We said yes as voters, right? With some assumptions when we said yes to be a city, that you take care of this infrastructure, and you wouldn't say, well, we haven't raised rates for 5 years. Well, that you mean you haven't budgeted, you didn't plan, you kicked the can down the road, you find the right political time to say, hey, right now is a good time to ask for one more thing. Let's add PG&E, gas tax, property tax. And again, not to me, listen, I'm young enough to keep swimming and keep up with whatever the government wants to spend of our hard-earned money, whatever we get to keep from the federal and state. But that's not true when you're 75. That's not true when you're 85. That's not true when you're clinging not to live in your car. And honestly, let's be real. This outreach and everybody getting these, the participation shows we don't do a good job with the outreach. People don't participate. That's what we say up here to get what we want from you and your blessing and your approval. And later, if you want to take back the supplemental, there's no more Measure K, there's no more money for this. Let's let your great-grandmother keep paying property taxes after she's paid them for 70 years. Let's let her pay for the future infrastructure she won't be here to benefit from. And let's just torture them with slides and numbers. We need more transparency and accountability end to end. What's the burden of living in West Sacramento?
Thank you, Matthew.
Dennis Price.
Hello, Mr. Price.
Council members, I'm new to Sacramento. I'm actually your neighbor. So, yeah, I heard a lot of stuff here. My head's swimming. I'll try to go over the bigger points. Someone dropped the ball. So 10 years of water treatment, sewer treatment, worked with Cal EPA, worked with Fed EPA.
Can you speak a little more into the mic?
Oh, I'm not.
There we go.
Usually I have a bigger mouth. I thought you did.
Want to make sure we hear everything you say.
I have a lot of experience in water treatment. Serviced all the cities in California from 1989 to 1996. No difference. Horror stories. You got one hell of one. So after this, I'm going to file a California Public Records request to find out where this ball got dropped, because this never should have happened. So your water treatment people should have told you this. Your sewer treatment should have told you this. Also, one other quick question. You guys mailed everything out? What dinosaur decided to do that? Was that part of the statute on 218 that you have to mail it? Okay, well, that needs to be amended because we all use our phones. Who uses snail mail? Go ahead, raise your hand. You guys are awesome. Keep it alive. But guess what? The population has moved on. The population has moved on, so maybe we need to reconsider that in the future. I don't know, in your study, I mean, I want to copy that because there's a lot of things I like and there's a lot of things I don't like. I don't like the fact that only cities local here were used. I think that's a misrepresentation. We need to look at water source, right? We need to know what kind of plant they have, right? All these things have to be factored in. And comparing us to someone else and say, well, we're lower. Okay, well then just rate me then, right? We'll just bend over and take it because everyone else is paying more. That's not the right way to do this. So the ball was dropped. You guys shouldn't do this. The gentleman over there was talking about PG&E. Oh my God, I mean, that's going to affect the next election, what PG&E is doing to us. The property taxes that have been paid in this city, and my understanding is, West Sac gets the lion's share of the property taxes, which is great. I think it should go to the city. But now we're going to raise rates now? I mean, this is the worst possible customer service that you could possibly do to your customers. You don't do it now. You wait till things kind of mellow out, people start getting back to work, the economy looks better, and then you do it incrementally. The other thing is, I really want a detailed accounting on what's wrong with these systems, because someone said, well, the pumps weren't working. Really? They're at their point? That should have been figured out when you bought the pump. In other words...
Your time is up.
Yeah. We got problems, and I think raising the rates is the worst thing you could possibly do. Everyone here is going to look bad, and I don't want that.
Chris Kim.
Okay, so I want to bring to everybody's attention, and you know, if you haven't heard this so far, we are smaller than Davis and Woodland in terms of people, but we have almost twice as many employees. Why do we have twice as many employees as Davis and Woodland? And what do they do? So my neighbor was having a garage sale the other day. So his house is here, and there's a City of West Sacramento truck parked like this in front of it. His engine is running. There's a disaster, right? And I go in there, there's no disaster, right? And I'm looking at the guy's garage sale, and the guy is in there looking at stuff in the garage sale. He's in there longer than I am, right? And he leaves the engine running. The engine is just running the whole time. Okay, we've got twice as many employees as the other towns, and this is what people are doing. You can go down to the park, and you can see these guys, and they're parked with the engine running. And it's not the parks guys. So those guys are hustling their butts off. They're mowing lawns, doing whatever. These are other city employees. Okay, so the point I'm making with this is that these costs are being amortized into our sewer and water costs. So these are the costs for everybody, and their proportion is being pushed down into our sewer and water costs. And so our sewer and water costs are higher than they need to be because of all these excess employees that I don't know what they're doing. Okay, so that gets back to what the other guy said the other day about, or the other speaker who said that we have lots of potholes in the road. We've got lots of damaged roads. Why aren't they being fixed? You know, they're not being fixed. And then lastly, in my last minute, I'd like to point out that I worked on low-income housing tax credits, right? And on the low-income housing tax bonds, the bond makers make about 10% of every deal. So you're going to always have pressure on you with people pushing you to do debt-driven financing. And you just look at the numbers that we saw in that flyer, and you can see that half of our income is going to debt financing. Well, that's sort of high, in my opinion. And I kept it under 3 minutes. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right.
We have no additional requests to speak on this item.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this time, I will give 1 more minute for any additional written protests. And I'm going to put the clock on. If Madam Clerk, can you explain for that process how that?
If you haven't done so already and you'd like to submit a written protest, the forms are over here against the counter, and you just fill one out and put it in the box.
I'm going to give 1 more minute for that. If you can start the clock, that would be great. Thank you.
Mayor, could we ask an additional question?
Oh, yeah, we're
Staff?
doing that after.
Okay.
It's done after the public comment is done. That's why I wanted to leave the public comment open.
There's more we can do before the public hearing is closed, if you'd like to
I was just looking
continue
at
and
my
give more
little
time.
script here that said it was done after the.
Yeah, well, up here we've got, so there is Resolution 26-23 regarding the written objections that needs to be considered first before we will recess or close the public hearing, recess, and tabulate protests. So we can have that conversation and consider that resolution while the public hearing is still open and protests are being maintained, if you'd like.
It's fine. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who came forward to speak this evening. At this time, I will bring this item back to council for discussion regarding the objections and staff responses. Are there any questions? Is that just, and Mr. City Attorney, just making sure I continue to follow this process.
Yes, so the process that we recommended to you is, at this point, the council should consider the resolution that Roberta just referenced, which is the resolution related to objections. And if you are comfortable doing so, adopt that resolution, which says that the council has considered the objections that were made and the responses from staff and does not feel that they warrant either a continuation or a change in the rate. If you're comfortable with that, that would be the next step.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to council. Councilmember Alcala, did you have a question?
Yes,
related to that? Okay.
Related to this. Maria Garcia made a public comment in Spanish. She was talking about the hard economic times that people are going through. And I think she was the one, perhaps someone else, who just mentioned what would be the repercussions of putting something like this off. I know we have a failing infrastructure. There are all kinds of problems. And in terms of running into deficits, to have our utilities, the water, the sewer systems, what would happen if we were to put it off a year? Because I think it's something that she was asking.
If you put it off a year, you'd likely be in the same position next year with higher rates that you'd be looking at, and people still with the same considerations. Because at the end of the day, PG&E rates impact the water service as well. So when we look at these, and I do want to respond to why we do this every 5 years, we are Proposition 218. We cannot adopt rates for more than 5 years. So we have to do them up to 5 years at a time, but we have to come back and redo a study every 5 years. So at the moment, if we were to put those off, what we saw in a couple of slides that Rick showed, if we did not do rate increases, each utility would run out of money at a certain time. And so that green dotted line shows you when the utility would run out of money.
So literally in the next year.
So
26, 27.
shortly after, the 26, 27 for the water fund. And that's with this scenario of capital planning too. So obviously we need to make decisions. Infrastructure would not be implemented, but in both cases it's 26, 27. We are also, we have existing debt obligations, and with that we have to maintain a certain level of coverage, revenues over expenses, and we are at risk of not meeting that in the near future if we do not adopt rates at least sufficient to cover those costs. So it would be business as usual, and many of the projects that we haven't been able to do, like the high service vault manifold, would not be able to be done, and which would potentially, if there were emergencies that happen, we would end up having to come up with funds to do emergency repairs and those types of things. So it's risk related to that. But
And Roberta, just to add on to that, and correct me if I'm wrong here, because I think this is an important clarification. While you can do the rate analysis and adjustments every 5 years, we actually have not done it since 2017 for water at least, and
for water and sewer, the last time we did these studies was 2017.
Yeah, and so I make that point mainly to emphasize kind of the culture the city had for many years post-recession was to tread very lightly on this and not be impactful to residents' rates. And that's why you see for many years we were among the lowest in the region. So while we have the ability to do it every 5 years, we have not for we're getting on 10 years here. And so all the problems that Roberta just mentioned that would just be exacerbated by waiting would only get worse. And I think, in reality, we understand that probably the hardest thing city councils anywhere are asked to do are things like this, raising people's rates, impacting people's personal budgets. We get that it's a very difficult thing. Probably an even harder thing to do is when you continue to let problems like this linger. It's cutting services. It's making tough decisions around what choices you're going to have to make as a council to mitigate some of the problems that are caused by continuing to operate the way we have on this. So we get that it's very difficult for everyone that's affected, both for the council and for ratepayers especially. And yes, there's always that option, hey, let's just kick this another year and another year. But as Roberta did a great job of explaining, the repercussions of that are severe. It has to happen at some point. There's never a good time, but we think we've done a good job here of striking a balance between what needs to happen to maintain the infrastructure and keep up with the pace of things, but also being mindful of the impact and trying to come up with some solutions for especially people that are on fixed incomes, low income, to help mitigate that. So hopefully that helps.
Rebecca, sorry. I was just going to ask, the infrastructure, when we talk about putting in these very expensive $1 million, what would you call them, valves and all, does our city do that, or do we farm that out? Someone did ask me that, and I said I would find out.
Our capital projects staff manages the projects, but a lot of those are typically, we do a solicitation and hire contractor for.
Okay, real quick. And I just wanted to address something real quickly. Someone said, our seniors sometimes can't pay these bills. We do not cut utilities off.
We do not shut off utilities for non-payment, correct?
Just wanted to make certain that was clear. And then just real quick hypothetical. My bill runs about $150 a month. How much is my rate?
I can't tell you that without having, we do have a bill calculator online, so you can go online and take your last bill, put in a couple of pieces of information, and it'll tell you what your bill will be for the next 5 years. So that is available on the utility rates website online.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. That's all.
Yes, go ahead, Councilmember.
So just some clarifying questions, and thank you, Councilmember Alcala, for always representing what you're hearing from the community. Seriously. What came up for me, just Aaron, when you touched on it, I just want to make sure I reflect back, because I think it also harkens back to what we heard from public comment in regards to, so we have not increased our rate since 2017.
The last study was 2017 for 5 years, so the last rate increase was July 1st, 2021.
2021, okay. And so, again, I just want to make sure I'm keeping up. So our last rate increase was 2021. We have not increased our rates since then, and I'm looking at you, but also Aaron looking at you, just because we wanted to make sure that we were being sensitive to the economy, or I just want to make sure I'm keeping up.
There are multiple factors, and Roberta can help me out here, but I think, you have to go back in context of that time. I think even the 2017 rates that were done, I wasn't city manager then. I don't remember the whole context, but we've been behind even with those rates. I think when you fast forward now to the environment where we were in, when we could have done another rate study, it was during COVID. It was when people were at their absolute, scariest moments in uncertainty in budgets and all of that. So I think that explains a lot of why we took a softer approach at that time. But the problem's only compounded during those years. And so I think that's partially why you see a more significant increase being proposed this time around than perhaps was done back in 2017. And certainly what would have been if we had done it in 2021.
Yeah.
But the timing then was far worse, arguably, than what you're facing today.
Yeah, and so I think that's the challenge that we find ourselves in, right? Which is that there is no good time, one, to increase rates. There is always something happening, whether it be in America regarding our global economy, COVID, which I don't think any of us could have expected. And so I think what our staff tried to do, and city council at that time, I imagine, was try to your point, strike the balance and be sensitive to that. But what we also heard during our public comment is, why did we get here? Why did we wait so long? Why did we kick the can down the road? Because we were trying to be sensitive and understand that the economy was burdening everyone. The economy is burdening everyone right now. We can't control PG&E rates. I honestly, I'm right there with you. I wish we could. And there's a lot of things that we can't control, but we also have to make sure that we have a proper infrastructure, because the alternative is that it breaks down even more. And so it is not an ideal situation to be in. And I do want to make sure that not only folks who have submitted public comment via email and submitted protests understand that we are absolutely listening to you. This is not a situation that any of us want to be in, but it does, something has to be done, because quite frankly, we heard during public comment, why did you wait so long? And so if we wait longer, it's going to just continue to compound. And so it is something that we are going to have to address one way or another. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And for a couple of protests, one was using our sales tax that we just increased, and the answer is that there was maybe somewhat of an advisory guidance on how it could be spent. And I also heard that we don't use general fund money to spend on, and does anybody else use general fund money to spend on these projects?
Typically, no. I will tell you, every city I've worked in, and it is not a good idea to use your general tax revenues that you could spend on public safety and other general government services that don't have another funding source to use. It doesn't make good financial sense to do that, because you can set rates on the utilities to cover the cost of doing that. So you'd certainly be making decisions about priorities for the city, because yes, it can technically, general fund revenue can be used for any governmental service. It's just it's not a good financial decision, and so most cities do not do that.
And I just wanted you to reiterate that, because I heard that somebody asked that question. Also, for the sales tax revenue, that is encumbered already, and
correct. So the tax revenues, Measure K was the only tax measure that included language in the advisory measure for this type of use to be eligible. And so those are committed. The council's made decisions, voters made decisions about those, and we use those tax measures in the way that they were approved for use. Measure O did not have an advisory measure. However, it was very clear in the ballot language how it was intended to be used, and this was not one of those eligible uses. Those funds have been committed. We added over 50 staff, a lot of those in public safety and parks, and we've been carrying out the projects. I think, put like 20 million in one-time projects for road projects and park projects and other things out of Measure O. And so those funds are fully spent at the moment until additional future revenues come in. But overall, even on an ongoing basis, through the additional staff and the additional operating costs and other things that we've added for parks and fire and public safety, Measure O is almost fully committed.
And when we get compared to other cities about our staffing composition compared to the population, when you looking at, what we have as a, and the city manager too, if you can help us to understand, first of all, we have higher rise buildings like Kelster's, we have
Well, there's a lot of things that go into the number of
same.
employees. We also have, we are a full service city. We have police and fire and parks included. We don't contract those out. There are a lot of things that go, we also have a big, every city is sort of made up a little bit differently, and every city has different things that they may spend their money on. But yeah, we are a full service city. We have fire, police, and parks and all of those things. And so you'd have to look at each city and how they're made up to do those types of comparisons.
And for example, the cities that were mentioned in Yolo County, we're the only one that has a water utility. So Davis and Woodland have a shared utility, but they're not, as far as I know, they're not city employees. So our FTEs are going to be higher just by nature of everything Roberta said. And that's an important distinction. We are the water company. So many cities contract out for a water district or whatever it is. So it's not an apples to apples comparison. In other words, when even full service can mean, we're more full service than some of those other cities are. So we're going to have more employees by nature of that.
Thank you. I just wanted to provide some clarification for that question. I can't recall any other. Oh, yes. The other question is for those that I heard the bajo ingreso, the lower income populations. Considering that factor, that there will be some people in lower income, including older adults, getting the word out for the subsidy, just making sure that we provide that explanation. I know here it is all only in English as a description, but making sure that there is a well-rounded outreach program so that people with different languages can understand the benefit, because we are taking that into consideration, as Councilmember Early recognized the distinction on the benefit of that subsidy. It is going to be pretty generous and helpful for those who are in lower income brackets that would qualify, and up to 250% federal poverty. That means nothing to anybody else out there, but that is a pretty significant factor. It's very generous. I mean, if anybody wants to understand, I don't, if you participated in the Healthy Families program, for example, in the past, you would qualify. That's my comparison. It's better than those in the Medi-Cal program and or even in the CalWorks program. It's like the Healthy Families, so these are people that are working part-time and needed that type of support. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Councilmember.
Roberta, talking about that outreach, is that going to be put like in when the bills go out?
Yeah, so we have the ability to, a lot of people don't pay attention to things that come in with their bill, but we do have the ability to do bill inserts. We also have a large population of our utility customers now paperless or have provided their email because they've signed up for our online bill pay an account option, and so we're able to send email blasts to folks. We work with Linnea, our PIO, and do social media blasts and other things, and in fact, I believe we've got a press release ready for once council does adopt rates and this program that we would send that out as well. So we've got a plan for getting that out. We didn't want to get ahead of that with our existing program until council made a decision to expand it, but we are ready to go to get the word out.
Thank you.
And just to add on the other question about delaying, I find, for example, the I Street Bridge or the light, any of our projects, any construction projects, the material cost is going up significantly, and just being able to pay for those doing the work is going up as well. So the quicker we can get some of these projects done, the better it is for the cost in the, to avoid the higher cost in the future. Okay.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Mayor
Thank
Pro
you.
Tem.
So raising utility rates, it's not a decision I take lightly. It's difficult to be in this position. But maintaining safe, reliable infrastructure isn't just an option, it's our responsibility. And we're not just talking about clean water. Earlier in the presentation, you talked about actual physical damage to our community and sinkholes and things that could take lives if this isn't taken care of. While I appreciate, the COVID times and us being really cautious of funding during then, the staff report speaks specifically to us, wanting to maintain low rates, but not being able to keep up with preventative maintenance. And then things cost twice as much. And if we kick this can any further down the road, it's just going to continue to get worse. And so, very aware how this is going to impact our community. I think the work that has been done on the rate assistance programs are great. And the additional outreach for that, I think, is going to be really important. And I look forward to coming back and revisiting that and seeing how it's working and if we're doing it correctly and we're meeting our residents where they're at.
Okay. Well, I do want to say I appreciate the residents taking the time to come and present their concerns. And if we didn't address your any concerns, we'd be happy to follow up with you. As we take even what's happening in action tonight, we are still interested in hearing from you and provide any clarification on the justification. We get a chance to spend time listening to everything and, meeting with staff and digging in a little deeper. We don't arrive at this decision as Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull explained. I think we took a lot of time during various points in time. We do tours of what's happening at the water treatment plant and, various projects so that we can totally understand some of the costs and also listen to staff as they explain. Sometimes things are overdue and these type of investments are, I think, overdue and much needed. So with that, we'd like for you to be familiar with that, and we are available to have those discussions with you, because I know it's going to be a hardship and it's going to be challenging as we implement this. And so with that, we have a resolution 26-23 regarding written objections. I'll accept a motion to approve that.
Early moves.
Second.
All right, Madam Clerk, Councilmember Early moved and Councilmember Alcala seconded. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye. All right, we're going to close the public hearing and recess. For how long do we need to recess?
I don't know how many protests we need to tabulate, but until we're done tabulating protests, do we do 5-10 minutes? What's our?
5-10 minutes?
Yeah,
10
I'm
minutes?
looking at the city clerk, as long as you're good 5 minutes, you think?
Why don't we be generous and say 10?
Are we having two people count them?
Let's do 10.
Yeah.
Probably 10.
We'll recess for 10 minutes to tabulate the protest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick. I'm going to want to make a motion after
That's a great idea. Give them a free Play the Westway one if you park in the parking garage, buy your tickets in advance. So many great ideas.
I want a piece of chocolate. Oh, and I'm on the mic. Hot mic.
And they are going to low interest rates. So one of the things in our, I've never been forgiven, but very low interest rates.
All right.
When we forecast debt, we forecast it assuming not 5%.
All right. We got 2 more steps left to go. I'll bringing it back. All right. Council is back. And the meeting will reconvene. I will now ask everybody, if you could please take your seats and lower your voice so we can hear the outcome, that the city clerk will announce the final protest count.
The final protest count was 195.
Thank you. If the number of valid protests received is fewer than 8,891 protests, which represents a majority of the affected parcels, the council may proceed with consideration of the proposed water and sewer rate adjustments. So at this time, I will bring the matter back to the council for discussion regarding the protest results and the proposed rates. Bringing it back for discussion. Any comments? All right. Then we will consider adoption of Resolution 26-24, adjusting the utility rate charges for water and sewer services. I'll accept a motion. Is that with our next one? All right.
Hold on. I'll move.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Cole moves, and is there, and Councilmember Early seconded?
Early seconds.
All right, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Sorry, Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye, thank you. This is now approved, and now we will consider the proposed revisions to the rate assistance program.
Thank you. I don't have a resolution for it, but I would love if you would take a vote.
All right, thank
I think
you.
you move the recommended action. It just says to approve the program, so.
Okay, move the recommended action. Councilmember Alcala moved.
I'll second.
And Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hall seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hall?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Mayor, can I make a motion?
Oh, yes, Councilmember, do you have a request?
Yes, I do. I'd like the reconsideration of our consent agenda vote so that the mayor may add her vote to this agenda.
All right, we have one council member who just walked out, and I would like for her to return before we,
All right.
we'll take a minute. Oh, there you are. Punch.
Just needed a piece of chocolate.
Oh, that's fine.
Struggling. Don't
Okay.
judge me.
I'm sorry, did you hear that request? Okay, council member?
Okay, so I'm asking for reconsideration of the consent agenda vote so that the mayor has an opportunity to vote on that as well.
Oh. Did you want to pull something?
I just, reconsideration of the consent agenda so that I
Collaborative
can,
vote.
so that I can vote. And we just need a vote, just so that I can add my vote into the
So
consent.
if you'd like us to clarify the process for that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so we researched it in the council procedures. So for reconsideration, I'll read it literally. Reconsideration of an item shall be allowed in accordance with the following council guidelines. Resubmittal of issues previously acted upon is discouraged. However, requests will be considered by a majority vote of the council. A motion for reconsideration must be made by a member of the prevailing majority when the previous vote was taken. So it would be a motion made by one of the three of you that voted on it
So I would
previously.
like to
Vote on the
vote for the
consent.
consent agenda.
That's all.
I would just like to vote in that, add my vote for the consent agenda.
Okay.
Second? Second?
Go ahead, Councilmember.
I don't support that motion.
Well, I will second it, and then we will, it's just to add my name for the consent agenda, just to say I voted aye for it.
I mean, you didn't vote no?
No, I'm not voting no.
I mean, just,
Right.
okay.
So, Madam Clerk, I second it. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
No?
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hall?
No.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye. All right.
The motion fails.
The motion fails. I just want to add that I just wanted to vote aye for the consent agenda. And it wasn't anything objectionable that I wanted to raise. All right. And just for the record, I did want to vote aye for that. If we can add that as part of the minutes, Madam Clerk, to include that as part of the minutes, that I wanted to vote aye for the consent agenda. But the motion that was recommended by Councilmember Alcala and seconded by me was rejected.
I'll record all of that in the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Next is Agenda Item 13, Public Hearing and Consideration of First Reading of Ordinance 26-1, amending Title 8, Health and
So
Safety.
we did that when you were out.
We actually
you did that?
So
Okay.
yes, so we're
We
moving
kept it
on
moving.
to 14.
Next item is Agenda Item 14, under Community Development, is a public hearing and consideration of first reading of Ordinance 26-3, repealing and reenacting Chapter 5.12 of the City of West Sacramento Municipal Code related to massage businesses. And Ms. Katie Rogers, I do want to add one comment here, that for item 14, we have a Mandarin translator, and people can get a remote receiver. Madam Clerk, where's the remote receiver from the box on the side of the room? For anybody who's speaking Mandarin, I don't know if I can achieve that. Anybody who needs the translation, we have a remote receiver. Is there a Mandarin translator here? Can you come up and to explain that to anybody so I can make sure everybody understands that opportunity? Do they all have the remote receiver? Oh, great. Okay, thank you. Just want to make sure they do. All right.
Thank you so much for mentioning that.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the City Council. My name is Katie Rogers. I'm a senior analyst with the Community Development Department. And joining me tonight is Daniel Baruman, also with Community Development, senior planner. So tonight we're presenting a proposed update to a portion of Chapter 5.12 of the Municipal Code, which regulates massage businesses within the city. The ordinance before you would repeal the current chapter and replace it with an updated set of regulations intended to better reflect current state law and modern business practices. As you mentioned, I did also want to mention, we do have Mandarin translation that we arranged tonight for anyone that wishes to speak at the podium or make public comment. Down. There we go. The purpose of tonight's item is to request City Council consideration of Ordinance 26-3, which would adopt a revised regulatory framework for massage businesses operating in the city, of which there are currently 12. The proposed update focuses on a few primary objectives. First, it modernizes a section of the municipal code that has not been significantly updated in many years. Second, it aligns the city's regulations with the current statewide certification system for massage practitioners. And third, it provides clear standards and oversight tools for massage establishments operating locally. The city's current massage ordinance dates back several decades and reflects a regulatory structure that is no longer consistent with how the profession is regulated today. For example, the code uses terminology such as massage parlors, which is no longer commonly used and does not reflect modern industry standards. The existing ordinance also includes an internal business permitting and application review structure that is outdated and does not reflect standard practices by other local government agencies. Additionally, the existing ordinance predates the creation of the California Massage Therapy Council, which now plays a central role in certifying massage practitioners statewide. Because of these changes, portions of the current code are outdated, and some provisions are difficult to apply or enforce effectively. Updating the ordinance allows the city to modernize the chapter and align it with the current regulatory environment. The proposed ordinance introduces several key policy updates, which we'll dig into over the next few slides. One of the most important changes is the requirement that all massage practitioners operating within the city hold certification from the California Massage Therapy Council. In addition, massage establishments would be required to obtain a city-issued massage business permit, in addition to maintaining the standard business license. The ordinance also establishes clear operational standards for businesses and introduces a formal inspection program that allows the city to verify compliance with those requirements over time. These updates will help create clear expectations for business operators and provide the city with a more structured system for oversight. At the state level, massage therapists are regulated through the California Massage Therapy Council, also commonly referred to as the CAMTC. The CAMTC is responsible for certifying practitioners and ensuring that individuals meet minimum training and educational standards. The organization also conducts background checks and maintains certification records for practitioners throughout the state. By requiring CAMTC certification, the city can rely on this established statewide system to confirm practitioner qualifications, such as background checks, legitimacy of schooling establishments, and verification of training hours received, rather than attempting to regulate individual licensing locally. This allows the city to focus primarily on regulating the business operations of massage establishments, while practitioner certification will be handled at the state level. Another key component of the ordinance is the creation of a massage business permit issued by the city. This permit would be required for any business operating as a massage establishment within the city limits. This permit process allows the city to confirm that businesses are meeting all applicable requirements, including proper certification of practitioners, valid business licensing, and compliance with local operational standards. The permit application and renewal process would also provide a clear mechanism for addressing violations if they occur, including the ability to suspend or revoke permits if a business repeatedly fails to comply with city regulations. The ordinance also establishes a number of operational standards intended to promote consistent business practices and protect public health and safety. These standards include defined hours of operation, requirements related to sanitation and hygiene, and procedures for maintaining clean facilities and properly sterilized equipment. The ordinance also requires transparency for customers by ensuring that services and pricing are clearly posted, and it establishes record-keeping requirements so that businesses maintain service records for a specified period of approximately 2 years. Additionally, The ordinance clarifies that massage establishments must operate strictly as commercial businesses and may not be used for any residential or sleeping purposes. To support the operational standards, the ordinance establishes a structured inspection program for massage establishments, which will be overseen by the city's Code Enforcement Division. And actually, it will be modeled similar to the existing motel-hotel inspection program. Through this program, the city would conduct periodic inspections to verify that businesses are operating in compliance with certification requirements, sanitation standards, and other operational provisions contained in the ordinance. This inspection program helps create a consistent oversight process and provides the city with an opportunity to identify potential issues and work with businesses to address them before they become larger problems.
Thank you so much, Katie. As part of the ordinance update, we really emphasized involving the community, the massage business community. We held on-site visits with all the 11 existing massage businesses at that time. We contacted neighboring businesses to ensure that we addressed any issues or potential problems where massage establishments were and are located. And we held a community meeting on May 22nd, 2025 with translation services in Mandarin, and Spanish also was also available. And we had really good representation from the massage business community. We had attendees from every massage business at that time, which were 11. It was a productive meeting for the massage business to really understand what this ordinance was all about. For full transparency, we did make changes to the ordinance because it was a draft at that time. The ordinance that you see today is a little bit different from what was presented back in May of 2025. We've had ongoing communication with the CEMTC, and we've had Beverly May of the CEMTC actually review the ordinance. And based on her review, she actually mentioned that this could be a model for other ordinances or jurisdictions in the future. And she provided a letter of support, which is is noted as attachment 3 in your packet. Now, we understand that not all businesses will be able to, on day one, meet certain CEMTC certification requirements. So we established an amortization or compliance transition period for existing massage businesses. And this is illustrated in the slide above, where you can see a 3-step process. I'll go through that. First, they have to have had a valid business license at the time of the effective ordinance. They must be providing massage services at the time of the effective ordinance, and they must apply within 60 days of the effective date of the ordinance. Number 2, that 8-month transition period, practitioners must be able to take the courses and classes needed to get CEMT certified. However, businesses must still comply with the other operational requirements of the effective ordinance. And at the end of the 8th month, all massage practitioners must be CEMT certified. There are no exceptions. So in the future, after the effective date, all massage businesses must be CEMT certified. Practitioners say. Now, there are a few exemptions to this ordinance. There are some licensed professionals that would not have to abide by this, just doesn't apply. And these can be seen here. I'll go through that. Licensed medical and therapy professionals, for example, chiropractors, licensed barbers and beauticians, hospitals and healthcare facilities, and athletic trainers and educational institutions. So with that, staff is respectfully requesting City Council to find the project exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act, Section 15061B3, the common sense exemption, and conduct the first reading of Ordinance 26-3 by title and number only, repealing and reenacting Chapter 5.12 of the West Sacramento Municipal Code related to massage businesses. With that, we are happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Daniel and Katie. Bringing it back to council for questions. Any questions? Nope. Open it up for public comment. Madam Clerk, are there any requests to speak? And I would like to see, we have 2, so we can give you 6 minutes, which 3 minutes will be allocated for the initial, if it's in Mandarin, 3 minutes for the original language, and then 3 minutes for the translation to English, so that we may understand if that is necessary for the speaker. And if
Need
it's
a
just
minute?
Go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Sorry.
If it's just English, then we just need 3 minutes for that English speaking person.
Nita Minas? Minius?
Hi, good evening.
Madam Mayor, council members, appreciate this opportunity to address you with a few comments that I have. And this evening I found staff to be very helpful. I think most of them are kind of aware of what my issues are. You may have received from me, I sent out on March 10th, my initial reply to the, my response to the ordinance 25-8. When I arrived here this evening, I found that a number of my questions were answered. And so the good thing about that is I just have three remaining issues that I wanted to bring to your attention. Initially, it appears as though when 5.12 was established, the title of it was massage parlors. I have a major problem with the word parlors, mainly, first of all, because in my adult life, I've had very positive experiences receiving massage therapy. Indeed, the Massage Therapy Act, which was effective 1/1 of this year, I hope you've had the opportunity to look at it, and if not, that you will. In essence, the Act affirms that massage therapy, when provided by a CAMTC certified professional, is considered health care in California rather than adult entertainment or a personal service. It reinforces massage therapy's therapeutic role, strengthens medical legitimacy, reduces stigma and harmful regulation, supports professional respect. And in that light, I do not regard the word parlor as being respectful to people who provide massage therapy in the way that it's meant to do. So I respectfully request that you have staff amend that to massage therapy businesses, or certainly something that doesn't harken back to a time when parlors meant something else. And I think we all understand what that is. Also, initially, I hope you change the aspect of the $3,000 per employee. No employee has to pay $3,000 to work. That's part of the permitting process. And also that you have future items published in Mandarin. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guy Stevenson?
First, I'd like to say that I'm not saying all massage parlors are bad, but come on. It don't take a rocket scientist to figure out what they do in those businesses. It's human trafficking. And I would say that part, because a lot of them are Chinese, they get a work visa from China, sponsored by the owners of these massage parlors, bring them here, and they have to commit for 2 years, saying, okay, well, and then they take their ID, they take their passport, so they're locked in. A lot of people stay in these massage parlors that work there, they sleep there. I am totally against human trafficking, and I don't like the way the women are treated. But that's how they get them here. They get them here, they sponsor them, they get a special work visa, they come here, and they're locked in. How do I know this? Because I've talked to a couple of the Chinese girls that work in these places. I'm not saying all of them are bad, at all. You know, maybe 15% of the massage parlors are legit. The rest of them is just it's a front for prostitution. You go in there, pay this, and you're going to give them extra money. What do you think's going to happen? They're not playing checkers. You know what I mean? There's criminal activity. Then you get them in these little strip malls, and it affects their business because you have cars going in there all hours, and they stay open late. Do I like these massage parlors here in West Sac? Absolutely not, because it's 647B. I don't care how you look at it, that's prostitution. And that's what it is. You'll go in there and they'll say this, then they'll want this, and you pay for it. Everybody knows that. The police should know that. The people that are around these businesses, they draw a lot of negative attention. And they don't regulate them. They don't regulate them like they should. Because what will happen is they'll close down. You bust them, they close down, they open up another one, they change the business name. So they bounce around. They just pop up everywhere. And if you continue to let them work over here, you're going to go from 15 to 30. As soon as they find a vacant building near a business, they're going to propose to get a license from the city and open up. And they may have been closed up across in Sacramento. They may have gotten in trouble over there and closed them up. Well, hell, we'll just go to West Sacramento, open one up there. Yeah, I'm totally against it. And I know that they have a human trafficking team in Sacramento. There's 2 detectives and 1 sergeant that has to look over these businesses. That's what they need to do over here. And one last thing, they don't have enough code enforcement people to regulate these businesses. They're out of control. And they shouldn't be near churches at all or schools. So have a good night, ladies.
Thank you.
We have no additional requests to speak on this item.
All right, closing the public hearing, bringing it back to our council. Are there any questions among the council members? Any thoughts?
Can I just quick clarifying question?
Sure, Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The permitting for these businesses, it's $3,000 for the business, and that is set in our book of fees.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
If I may, I should clarify that that is a $3,000 deposit. So should the staff time be less than $3,000, the business is entitled to a refund of that money.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Oh,
Thank you.
that's helpful.
Yeah, deposit. Okay, great.
Councilmember.
So then two questions. One follow-up to that. What would the average cost in your guys' I think estimation be, right? So yes, it could be up to 3,000. I'm assuming 3,000 would be the max. What do you imagine being either the average or like on a low?
And that's a great question. I mean, certainly we have not finished processing any of these yet. But when the city did, or our department, I should say, we did a comprehensive book of fee update the end of last year, which was enacted for November 1st of last year. We worked alongside with a consultant that looked at the staff time, who would be processing it, how long it would take, and came up with that figure as what the expected cost would be for staff time.
Okay, so it could be up to 3,000, but 3,000, it'll likely be in the ballpark, actually, is what we're hearing.
That is the expectation, correct.
Okay, all right, that is helpful. One of the things we heard from public comment is code enforcement. So let's say that we have a business open up that doesn't have a certification. I know that we've gotten to experience our code enforcement and learning about code enforcement quite a bit this past year, and that they operate mostly on if someone calls, then they respond. Is that going to be the same case here?
Certainly, if there are complaints made through the typical process, code enforcement would go out at any time to address those concerns. But by passing this ordinance, we are implementing an actual inspection program that will be conducted approximately yearly unless there's violations that need to be re-inspected or readdressed. So if you're familiar with the existing motel-hotel inspection program, they do go out on a regular basis, and they have essentially a checklist of things associated with the existing municipal code that they're looking for, and it would be just the same way with massage inspections.
So just to make sure that I'm keeping up with this, so let's say, as like I said, we heard in public comment, a business opens up and they don't get the proper certification.
Yes.
Would it then be that we randomly throughout the year would then go, and if we see a business open up that gives any indication that they are a massage therapy service, then we would do a spot check, or would we check our records? Is this place licensed, or how would that work?
Yeah, I mean, by filing the massage business permit applications, we're going to know which businesses are operating in this city, and they're essentially.
What happens if they don't?
If they don't, well, then that would be an administrative process where they would go through a typical code enforcement process. There would be violations against the municipal code.
So what you're hearing from me is the way that our code enforcement currently works is there's only a violation if someone calls on them. And so what you're also hearing me ask is if no one calls, how are we maintaining this particular oversight?
Hi, I'm Andrea Aus. I'm the Director of Community Development. What they would do is through the annual inspection program, they would assert, okay, if there are violations, then those violations would need to be abated and would require re-inspections. Now, if, as you're suggesting, there's a new business that just comes in and sets up shop.
Yes,
then
which could be a thing.
It could be a thing.
Yeah.
And we would get on it immediately as soon as we recognize that it's a completely illegal, unpermitted business. And it's a rare occasion when that happens, but it occasionally happens. And so we go out and we stop work if there's any construction work being done without permits. If there's any operational aspects, if they hang an open sign and they're open for business, we would stop them. So in fact, we have businesses currently that we are enforcing right now and stopping work on because they don't have a business license, they don't have proper permitting, et cetera.
Andrea, could you explain to me how that works? And so meaning they don't have a proper business license or something along those lines. Did someone report them to you? Or I'm just trying to better understand the process.
Usually it's somebody with eyes on the street and saying, oh, I didn't know there was an X business there. And they'll call us and then we go out and act.
And I think there is an important distinction to make too, and Andrew, you can help me with this. When we talk about code enforcement being complaint driven, we're talking about in the classic sense of someone has a fence that's too high and a neighbor reports it to the city and we have an obligation then to go investigate and respond. There are other times and other important functions of a code enforcement division where they're supporting the business license division and the building department, where, we become aware through one channel or another that there's work happening, whether it's construction or business activity that is not permitted. And it does fall on code enforcement at that point to get the report, whether it's from someone in the public or one of our own staff that becomes aware of it. So when we talk about complaint-driven code enforcement, it's typically the stuff in the field that is kind of a neighbor or a passerby reporting something to us. But there are other forms of it where it's generally brought to our awareness because of a building issue or a unlicensed business.
Thank you very much, Aaron. I think that was, at least for me, my main concern, is that part of what we are doing here is trying to update the ordinance, but also trying to make sure that these businesses are operating in a way that are safe, up to code. I do agree this is a health function that is being performed, and we want to make sure that the proper oversight is being maintained. And with that in mind, I want to make sure that we have the capacity to actually enforce that, because I do think this is important. And so that's why I was trying to better understand this process. Thank you.
Councilmember Alcala.
Right. I do have two questions. One is, how many of these businesses are there in West Sacramento? Maybe I missed it.
There's currently 12.
12, okay. And if we had code enforcement come in, what kind of responsibilities do they have? Someone mentioned something about human trafficking. I mean, would they be required to report that type of activity? I mean, how can you really make that distinction? What are we putting on our code enforcement people?
So they're going to be looking for things that are listed in the municipal code, and it does outline all the operational standards that we're looking for. Should they see any evidence of crime, certainly we'd be working with our partners with the police department to address those potential concerns.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, council member, you have a watchful eye. I think your legal background contributed to that. I do want to add a little more, in addition to that, to human trafficking prevention. What type of activities do we have in our city to provide intervention, outreach, among vulnerable areas here in West Sacramento, where I think giving that opportunity to somebody who is being, undergoing human trafficking, to be able to access support. Chief? Good to see you getting ready to stand up. Given we're a Major League Baseball town now, that happens to be the case. It'll increase the potential for that to happen.
Yeah, I can speak to things that are in place currently. So we have several of our staff, really most of our staff, that are trained in identifying characteristics associated with behaviors associated with likely human trafficking, and we definitely have discovered cases of it in our work in the city. Additionally, I think we're supporters in a grant through the DA's office that they have specially trained victim advocates in human trafficking. It's a different sort of beast, if you will. And so it takes specialized care to really help carry victims through processes and try to get them out of that life. And so it's complex, and it takes people that have that skill set, so we partner with them on that as well. So those things are already in place, but I think it's important to know that all of our staff are also really attuned to this. We recognize that we're in a corridor with I-80 and I-5 for all kinds of trafficking, and that's just part of the reality of where we are situated. We also have this relationship with code enforcement, so we will get calls from them, not necessarily just when they're arriving, but sometimes when there's enough information being provided to them that arouses suspicion of those types of activities, where we'll partner to make some of these visits, both for staff safety, but also so we can put our more trained eye on these matters. And I will say, the other part of this, as far as even reporting unlicensed businesses, I think a lot of times the source of that information is going to be from legitimate licensed businesses. They recognize that they want a level playing field, and so they often have an interest in making sure we know when things pop up.
Good. Do we have resources for providing shelter and so confidential? You're saying we do. I just want to hear a little more specifics.
Yeah, we do. Through some of our partners, when we look at it through the lens of sex assault, domestic violence shelters, a lot of those general categories apply to human trafficking as well. So there's opportunities for sheltering and emergency sheltering.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate that. All right. If there are no questions, I'll accept a motion for this item.
So moved.
Early second.
Okay. Councilmember Alcala moved. Councilmember Early seconded. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Mayor Guerrero?
Aye. Next, under General Administration, Function Part 2, do we have any reports from council assignments?
I have.
Yes, Councilmember Early.
Okay, great. I said two. I actually have 3 meetings to report out on. I sit on the Housing Authority, and we adopted our mid-annual budget, just an update, and then also heard about just what is happening at the federal level with funding for our public housing, and more just an update to continue to be mindful and watchful of the impact of what's happening there, and more to come really was what we heard on that front. I also sit on the YOLO Transportation District, and we received a workshop actually on our budget. This was something that we asked for last year, a series of workshops, and this was the last of that series, regarding how our budget is made, where the dollars come from, decisions made on that. And it was really, really, really helpful to actually see where the dollars come from and how they are allocated to West Sacramento specifically. And so that meeting was actually recorded. I would highly recommend, if you are into budgeting and fascinated about transportation and our public transportation here in West Sacramento, to go take a look at it. That doesn't happen often, that a transportation district actually goes into that level of detail of how their budget is created. And then I also sit on the Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority. And so I had that meeting, I think earlier today, actually, in which we are going through hiring our executive director. And so what I can report out on that is that we hope that our first executive director ever for the Capital Area Regional Tolling Authority will start on July 1st. And so more to come there too.
Just to clarify, so the search happened, so you have somebody that...
The search is happening right now, yes,
Okay.
which is why I can't give more details.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that update.
I have an update.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On March 5th, the Yolo County Executive Commission to Address Homelessness met. Update, in January, we had our point in time count. And as at our March 5th meeting, the county was still calculating all the numbers and did not want to release any preliminary information until everybody was on the same page of what the numbers were. And so we're expecting to have the numbers at our next executive commission meeting, which will be in 2 months, but those will be released. The county's plan to end homelessness is an update, and I want to thank multiple members of the West Sacramento City staff for attending that meeting. It was held here in West Sacramento. There was, I think, a 2-hour SWOT analysis, and so made sure to have our experts that are on the ground in the room adding their thoughts to that process. And then something else that I brought it up probably a year or so ago, but the Commission to Address Homelessness had given BACS, Bay Area Community Services, about $3 million to purchase properties to repurpose for housing. And they purchased property in West Sacramento and in Woodland. And the West Sacramento property, they're expecting it to be complete in late May or June. There was some feedback from my colleagues on that commission of the timeline about how long it has taken for that to happen. And so that feedback was shared with everyone. What was really interesting about how they repurpose homes is that the cost per unit comes out to be about $121,000 per unit compared to $500,000 a unit in new construction. So the numbers are convincing there, but the timeline's not been great. But 23 units will be created. They're not room and board. You live with roommates. You have a shared bathroom. It's more of considered like a social co-op living. And so we've asked to stay up to date on that. But the property in West Sacramento is, let's see, full build-out or construction begins March 30th. And so our staff is aware of the property and about how the placement in the housing will be. And so our staff on the ground is watching that very closely. So that's my update.
I have done this time, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Alcala. Council calendar.
No report tonight.
All right, city manager report.
Yeah, just a couple of quick notes on follow-up on items tonight. First, she didn't mention that was Katie Rogers, longtime employee, first-time presentation at council, so she did a nice job there.
Katie.
Thank you. I wanted to follow up on the Bright Park item. It's as you know, the school district is our partner on that. We are waiting on the final action from their board to approve the purchase agreement that you have previously approved. I can confirm as of this afternoon that they are having a special meeting tomorrow with other topics as well. Our item, the purchase sale agreement and the priority use agreement are both on there recommended for approval. So that's tomorrow night at 5:30, I think, over at the district office. So just wanted to make you aware of that. So I know you've been tracking it. And I think it goes without saying that, that project, given the legacy of work that's gone into that, it was a monumental thing to get it approved. And I just want to both thank the council and acknowledge you, but also the people that are here, starting with Kate and Tracy, who have been on this as parks directors in their time. very focused on it in Jay Chahal, whose department's going to be carrying it out. So lots of other staff involved, but I'd be remiss if I didn't at least acknowledge them in the context of that item tonight. So thank you.
And I just want to acknowledge Councilmember Alcala, who's been a champion for this from, the beginning of time,
Thank you, Mayor. And I want to actually acknowledge all the help we've gotten from you. And actually the person and the organization who brought, the necessity of upgrading the park for us. She passed away. Her name was Cheryl Castorina, fabulous activist here in West Sacramento. And our LULAC organization that we had in West Sacramento. That's where everything started and got the ball rolling. So a lot of people involved. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it was 10 years ago, the master plan effort,
Right.
10 plus years. Yep.
We actually
I was
looked at
sitting
the
out in-
master plan. 2011 was when the Bright Park master plan was on our strategic agenda. And what I want to also say, appreciate the advocacy, not only from Councilmember Alcala, but also really the whole council, right? Because this
We
would
did
not
get
be
there.
possible
Right.
without all of us voting, advocating, and pushing it forward to make sure that it wasn't just a partial design, but we all said, no, this is something that we want to see move forward. And I think it's something we all agreed on and said, this is important to us. So I just kudos to all of us, because we are so proud to be able to give this to our entire community. This is a park that every single member with children or families, whether they're in Broderick or Bright or Southport, are going to be able to utilize. And I, for one, am so excited to see it move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to mention one more group, the Broderick Bright Neighborhood Association.
That's right.
With Rhonda Morningstar. I mean, they were out there, having petitions signed and all. So it was really an effort by all of West Sacramento.
Yep, there was.
And I'm sorry, that's my report. I just wanted to highlight that item. And mainly the district will really take the clincher step tomorrow, we hope. So
Great.
we'll make sure
Looking
you
forward
get
to
that confirmation once it happens. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Nothing to report.
I do have a request for staff. We have a holiday named after someone that I'd like it changed, and please provide some direction on changing Cesar Chavez holiday to anything else.
Right. So we're definitely have been aware of the need to address that situation. I think when we look at the city's role in that, we have in our personnel rules and our holiday schedule, those are probably the only references that we have locally, and we will generalize those terms as soon as possible. I think we could do all that at the staff level. So that will be happening.
Thank you. Any future agenda item requests? I don't think I saw them in the binder, but none. Okay. All right, we are now adjourned.